Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everybody to the September 18th meeting of the Lynchburg Historic Preservation Commission. If I could bring everyone's attention to the bottom section of the agenda, you'll see the purpose and mission of the HPC and what we're here to accomplish. Let's see, the first item to be addressed would be the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda. I have a few corrections to give to Rob.
Okay, that was submitted to Robin. Do we hear a second?
Oh, second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. We will move to make that approved. Let's see here. And it looks like we can immediately roll into our action agenda for certificates of approval, of which there are several. And several are also regarding the same property. So when you're asked to come forward to represent a property, if you would please state your name and address for the record and let us know a little bit about your project. So the first item we have would be 1601 Rivermont Avenue, if there is a representative for that property. Excellent.
Hi, my name is Brad Bullock. I own 1601 Rivermont Avenue.
Excellent. Would you like to tell us about the work that should be done on that first action item, which is the deck and sunroom?
Well, actually, it might make more sense to go with the first part of this project, which is going to be moving a door around. My property was built as a single-family home in 1909, and in the 30s, I think around 1930, it was made into a duplex. They took a door, they pried that out of the side of the house and put that, as you can see, on the right-hand side of the porch. So that allowed for an up-down configuration for the duplex. Obviously, we've knocked the wall down. We have no need for two front doors. And what we'd like to do is to take that door and instead of just trashing it, putting in the back of the house where we'd like to have a back entry onto a deck that we hope to put in. And in its place, we would like to take the window, which is original to the back of the house and is, of course, consistent with all the other windows, and put that in the place of the front door. And that way, we hope to preserve as much as we can of the original structure. This actually takes the house, the front of the house, back to its original appearance because there was a window of the same width that was on the front of the house before they put the door there. So it would effectively restore the appearance of the house to its original appearance while maintaining the door, not getting rid of it, placing it in the back of the house where we wish to have access to the outdoors.
Application committee, do you want to hear the project in its entirety or tackle these one by one?
Well, however they are in here, I think they're
Yeah.
one by one.
Okay.
Is there any, do you have any, I assume you have some sort of physical evidence.
Yes.
Is that interior evidence that you found?
It's actually exterior. It turns out when I painted the front of the house, you could see the outline of where they took the window. You still have the exact dimensions of the window, including the sill. It's still visible, actually.
You don't have any old pictures by any slim chance, do you?
Boy, I wish I did. That would be nice. But no, it's quite obvious that there was a window there of that width. In fact, that's why we made the proposal, because the width of the door and the width of the window are exactly the same.
And it is documented that it was a single family.
Oh, yes, most certainly.
And which door is it that you're taking
It's
down?
the one on the right.
So the middle door will remain?
The middle door is the original door,
Okay.
indeed.
I move that we approve the application as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? I just have a quick question.
Sure.
The transom that's above that door, is that whole, at what area is the actual opening of the window? Or if you were to superimpose the window that you proposed to put back, where would it fill in that space?
It would be about 3/4 of what you see, and it would be probably a little below where the transom begins. I'm just going from memory, of the original door. So it would be consistent, you can't see it, but if you were to be able to pan over to the left from the front door, you would see that there's a series of 3 windows that look exactly like the one that we're going to put in there, and it would be at that height.
Okay. You have siding that will go in its place on the lower side?
Believe it or not, I have some original siding that I pulled off of a garage because I had to redo an entire back of my garage, and so yes, I do.
Okay.
Enough to make the repairs.
Right. Perfect. Okay. Any other discussion about that part of it? No? Okay, that seems to me we're good to go on the, okay, I guess we do take a vote on, all right, we'll take a vote on the replacement of the door with an original window. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? We're good
Thank you.
there?
The other part of the project is to put a deck and we hope a sunroom on the back of the house. We made every effort in designing this to make it consistent with the house. If you can see, I don't know if you back up a bit, that's good enough. Right now, that is not an original stair. It was added, we think, maybe in the 60s or 70s. But the door there is something that's historically appropriate to the property, and that's what effectively replaced the door that we want to now move. The hope is to get rid of that stair that was not original and put in a deck that looks like something that would be appropriate to the property, with a traditional kind of decking and design that would wrap around the house. And then the hope would be to put either a screened-in porch or a sunroom. We thought we would go ahead and submit the design for the sunroom. And again, every effort was made to make this consistent with the house proportionally in terms of the materials used, in terms of what the windows and the doors would look like and so on, including transoms and that sort of thing. And the door that we now will move to the back of the house to replace the window that's back there will be the access to that sunroom or to that porch. I don't know if you have a chance to sort of run through the plans or the pictures, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have about it.
Okay. Applications Committee?
We have looked at it, but we need to open this for discussion because there's too many questions. And I'll begin that.
Okay.
Okay, the walkway that's going to the side door. Now, did you say something about that side door? I heard you say it was appropriate to the house. Is it original to the house?
No, it is not original to the house.
Okay, but you're not. But the door is staying the way it is.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And so right now, I think you can remember from the photo, you walk out and there's this kind of decrepit stair going down to the ground. And what we want to do is eliminate that altogether so that when you step out of the house, you basically be able to walk along the side of the house and then down a set of stairs out to the backyard, or if you make that turn and you'd be walking right into a screen porch. Another thing that I'm not sure it was clear from the pictures, but there is an upstairs porch that has a stair coming down, and right now it's sort of like the stairway to nowhere. It comes to a landing, and the stair that was originally there was torn off the house before I bought it. And so the idea would be to have a way of connecting the back of the house and the front of the house. Back up. If you just back up one more. There's the stairway to nowhere. It goes up to the top of the top floor, and again, there's a wraparound porch up there. One of the things that we have done, in case it's of any interest, we did repoint the brick recently to make sure that when we do put any sort of structure back there, that we won't have problems with the brick decaying. We also moved an electric box, which you can see there, so that it's out of the way of any structure that we plan to put up there. And that's that little gray box that's immediately on the left of the stair.
You're not using type S cement for the mortar joint.
No, no, sir, I
It
went
kind
to
of looks
great.
like that from here. see.
No, I went to great, no, some of that is some mortar and stuff that was left there from some previous thing, and in fact, it looks like that's where the stair would have been, that was
Yeah.
originally there. But no, I went to great trouble of finding a mason who actually was using the proper kind of historic lime mortar.
Okay. What is the width of the new porch on the side?
The total width, meaning from, on the long side of the house?
Yeah, that's going to that door on the side of the house.
Well, if you include the walkway, it would be the entire back of the house, so that's about 27 feet. I think I've
No,
got
I
the...
mean,
Oh, the width is 3 feet,
okay.
3 feet.
My other question is, I see exactly what you're doing. You're wrapping it around with the stairs to connect to these, but it wasn't clear as to where you want to put the porch. There is a drawing of a porch, but there's no location of it.
Well, actually, I think it's probably in one of these drawings somewhere, and I apologize, I made an attempt at drawing them myself, and so I'm not an official draftsman, but the porch is going to be actually out of that. If we go back, you'll be able to see it. If you back up, and back up one more if you would, please. All right, so past that electric box, there would be a little bit more of a, I guess, walkway, and then at that point, that's where the full deck and the sunroom would happen. So we've got it drawn at about somewhere around 16 and a half feet of screen porch that's on a deck that comes out about 8.5 feet.
And the sun porch would be coming out the same flush with the deck, I assume?
It would, in fact, sit on the deck. And one of the things that I've been very clear to people who want to bid the job is that we need to make sure this is at city code and not porch, or deck code, so that a building could be put on top of it. But yes, it would be literally have the same dimensions as the decking. So about 16 and a half by 8.5, something like that.
What we recommend as far as are we doing the addition? What are we doing right now? Are we doing all this together?
Yeah.
That would be the plan. If we could do it all at once, that would be best.
What we recommend is that you try not to develop another style when you're creating an addition. So your addition, you've got the columns and the capitals and all that sort of thing. We would prefer it to be more 2017. In other words, if you made that and you just took off the capitals and the bases of that and you just kept it clean so that it doesn't look like, we don't try to make it look like it's been there. We're trying not to create a false sense of history is what we're attempting to do here. So if you could put that porch back up on there if you could. So something that, it almost looks like a little Greek temple. So I guess my other question is, when you do this, if you do it, are you going to have something drawn up, a little more professional, or are you going to try to use this to get your building permit?
Well, I would leave that entirely to whoever built it, it seems to me. And if it's something that this committee insists upon, of course I would do so. I think, at least so far, that we've had 3 people come and sort of at least look at the preliminary sketches, and everybody seems to sort of understand what's going on. I will say about this, as you pointed out, it kind of does look like a Greek temple from here, but I will say that actually the columns are drawn exactly as the columns are on the side of the house. So it actually, the whole point was to make this consistent with the house. The windows are exactly the same dimensions as the windows that are on the front of the house, that is 3 by 6. They're both 6 over 6. And while they won't necessarily, we're not going to insist that they are going to be like weighted and sashed and so on, even the eave and the fascia board and so on are drawn exactly as, and including the Yankee gutters are exactly, for example, as the side or the front of the house is drawn now. So in other words, we made every effort to do this exactly as the house appears now.
And that's my point exactly. It's, go ahead.
Excuse me, are we in the discussion period now? Are we allowed to open?
I guess we
discussion?
are, yeah. So, do you want to make a point?
Yes. First off, I think that the guidelines are intended so that we're not trying to make it look like we are trying to make like it was built all at the same time. But to say that a client cannot have what they stylistically like should obviously not be in the purview of our group. If proportionally it works with the building, there is an entire trend of architects that maybe started, I don't know, 30 years ago called neo-traditionalists. And they are building whole developments using these elements and trying to use good proportion. And so I think if a client wants to have those, or I mean, applicant, sorry, if an applicant wants to have those proportions and it's compatible with the house, I don't think our group should comment on its style. We've seen many applications come in here with no thought to proportion or good taste or what would look good on the house, and we've approved it because it's completely plain Jane. In this case, I think that this applicant could probably satisfy this committee if he showed this superimposed on the back of, on the back of the house where it goes. I think that maybe we need a little more, but I'm happy as the advocate for that neighborhood to meet with them and give them a little more direction, as we've asked from a few other applicants. Like, we might need a few more drawings, like just a plan drawing showing exactly where this goes, and then, a little more outline on the house. But, as the neighborhood advocate, I'd be happy to, help direct them, because he's already done a lot of care and consideration in this drawing. But I think it's very important that our group, if this works, and once he puts it on the building itself, the overall, I think we can judge that better. But if it's not out of proportion with the building, I think that because he's using classical details doesn't mean that we can't approve it. I think in many respects, it's very much in keeping with the house and will make the house more beautiful. And I think there could be some very simple ways that you could show the differentiation of it from the main house to satisfy the fact that we're not trying to pretend that it was built at this time period. But I think we'd probably have a lot better additions in our historic district if people, in some cases, would take this care to make something with some detailing that makes sense. And just because it does have traditional elements doesn't mean we just can't accept it and we have to have a modern addition. I think that when it represents the times, our times allow us a lot of leeway, from neo-traditionalism to hardcore modernism to many things. So I think that our group, wants to make sure that we are judging it based on the guidelines, but allowing an applicant to express their artistic intent.
Feedback regarding that?
I'll actually read what the guidelines say. It says, may be designed to appear distinguishable from the historic building. The recommended approach is for additions to reflect characteristics of the current period in design, but compatible with the original building. So a lot of times, people that come to this committee think that what we're looking for is for someone to come in and match all the details of the building. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that's not necessarily something that is not what we look for, really. We tried not to do that because you don't want to create that sense of false history. So it is subjective how you do it, but I think a drawing with that, along with the rear elevation and possibly the side elevation, showing how all that's tying in with the original house, the deck, the new deck, and so forth, would be very helpful to us in that respect.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. For example, I think someone made a comment about seeing this sort of superimposed over the house. Any ideas about how I might best do that? I have aerial sort of views of exactly where it is.
I can bring, I can show you just with printing out what's on the website for your house. It's available to all, anyone. I can, when I come out to give you the feedback, I can bring that with you, show you how to put that on. And then we also have a story pole that has the heights, and we can lay that up against the house. You can take a photograph of it, and you can get your heights. That I think will be, our goal is so that we understand the proportion of this compared to the house. But you've got a decent handle on this, and I think as long as you're representing the existing house accurately, which I can help you with a little bit, then you will probably be well on your way.
Because there's also a structure underneath this drawing here that we don't see, correct?
Yes, and in fact, if we go back to the previous picture, maybe, I think if you don't mind popping backwards, and just back to where we see the stairway to nowhere.
Who has control over that?
I'm sorry, I think this would be the easiest way to clear this up.
Robert, do you have control of this? Sorry, just back up one. There we go.
Actually, if you could go back one more.
One more there, Mr. Tom.
There. One of the constraints we have, of course, is that we're going to try to stay level with where the clapboards are. We don't want to, and so the level at which I think it's about, if I recall, it's about 4 feet that you have, that you would want the structure above that, and that's, based upon that elevation is how we came up with the stairs, to make sure that the stairs, are proportionate and so on. To answer your question, the structure that's underneath this is going to be basically the brick foundation that runs the length of the back of the house. As far as stylistically and so on, it may not matter to the committee, but this is behind a fence, and it's also on the back of the house, and it may not make one bit of difference in terms of stylistically what you may wish for at the end, but.
I think because of its elevation, and it is on the side street, it's visible, so
Okay.
we do have to take that into consideration.
Well, I was prepared for that, or I thought I was anyway, and so, that's the structure.
But it's on, it's basically on as far as the sunroom goes, it's on posts that are in the ground, correct? With,
That's
floor
precisely,
joists and all that.
that's precisely, yes.
Tom, is the sunroom are these two different actions? The sunroom and the deck?
They were all combined on
They
this.
were? Well, do you want to start the deck? The deck's not an issue. If you want, we can approve the deck and then maybe table the sunroom.
Well, of course, I defer to the committee. I don't want to push the committee to do something that the committee doesn't feel is appropriate now. I will say, though, what it will mean is if we're going to build a deck and a screen porch, it's going to be different. The railings are going to be different and so on. If we're going to build a sunroom, then we're not going to need some of that work. We basically have to undo some work if we're not. I think it would be easier for us to have approval to build with, Lauren's, guidance, build what we have. And if we end up not doing a sunroom, a deck is all we will end up with, right? A deck or a screen porch that will look very much like this design. So it would be better, I think, for us if we could just go ahead and maybe I could say glad to accommodate whatever it is the committee wants with the current design than to either table it or make these into separate things. That's my preference.
Would you like to make a motion? Or is there any other discussion? Or no? Go ahead.
Lauren, you
I'll
wanna make a motion?
You want to make a motion?
I can move that we table it, and then Rob and Tom, am I correct that he'd be able to be on next month's agenda for their property? And then we can you can give us some times to come out and talk to you and your wife and show you a few things about what you can do to the drawings. And it's mostly adding on to the drawing, but simple diagrams. I don't think it's super complex. I think you'll be fine with it. But that way, the committee knows exactly what position everything's in, the heights and everything. And then also, a little bit of feedback on how to make it differentiate enough that it suits the guidelines of, not blending so seamlessly that it, but there's a few things that have been done on past historic homes that can work for yours that, I can share with you from past applications, so.
Okay.
Are you on a major time crunch?
I am not,
Okay.
no. I wish there was enough help so that would be the case. But I think it's going to take a while just to get the door and the window moved.
Okay.
The thing we're trying to avoid, however, is having a door which goes to nowhere. So,
Second, moving it to tabling for next meeting. Okay, all in favor of that? Okay, so we will, you're good to go if you wanted to start working on the door and window. That can happen immediately. With regard to this, I believe, Robin, if you could pass along Lauren's information to him, then that would be great.
Is it on the website?
It is.
I can find it.
Yeah,
It's
I
on
think
the
I
website.
think it's on the website.
Yeah, if you go under community development, we have a historic preservation page, and all their information is on there.
Okay, I thank you for your time.
Mr. Bullock, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next item that we have for discussion, there are several items pertaining to 1415 Harrison Street. If there is a representative, please.
Hi,
Hello there.
I'm Tara Lee.
I'm John.
Oh,
Please, if you would, go ahead and
Yeah, we
let's
got
talk
him.
about the first item that we have on the agenda. I think it maybe has to do with the garage. Let me read. Is that
Well,
right? Yes.
the
Total
garage is
reframe
falling
of
apart.
garage.
It's got extensive termite damage done to it. We've got to rebuild it, and we have Gertie Construction. I actually finally got some of the plans from Alan, who's going to be doing the work. Basically, the only thing that's good on it is the roof. So I want to keep the transoms in front. I don't want those two double doors anymore. I want to make either one double door or one single door. And we want to side it with masonite boarding and paint it to look exactly like the house.
Hardy plank.
Clapboard,
Hardy Point.
which, I have a picture of the house. Well, I guess it doesn't matter, so.
Applications committee?
Do y'all want to see a picture of the
What?
plans?
Oh, sure, yes.
Yeah, hold on, let me get that. Oh, you got them?
Thanks, sir.
Bottom half, we want to totally enclose it.
With any doors or?
The door, it'll be a door facing Diamond Hill Church. You know, it's one already there.
Yes.
And probably add some windows.
There is, though, two windows facing the back, not this view, the back. We actually were given two big stained glass windows that actually came from the house across the street, which was the design house. I have a picture of them here. They're getting repaired right now. What I want to do is the two windows that are already in there on the
Facing Diamond Hill Church.
facing Gray Street, I want to take those windows out and use these two in that place. The rest of them, we just want to put just regular windows in, which would be two on the side. Where are they?
He's
Two
got
on
it.
the bottom.
He's got it on the
Oh,
picture.
they got it, okay.
So this one, is this facing the right side view?
That's the side.
Okay, so it's not,
It's this side right
it's
here.
not Greece. Okay, it's that side. Okay.
Right there.
Okay, got it.
It's got 2 windows.
And he wants to
Can't
leave
see
the
it.
brick, he wants to leave the brick exposed.
Yeah, we
That
want to
would
we want to use as much, leave as much brick exposed as we can. There's 2 windows on that side. No, you can't see the other one with the, there's ivy, but the bump out that we're talking about for the staircase will come out between those windows.
Yeah, in the doorway, right there in the middle. That's a doorway.
And enclose it, because right now it's in terrible condition.
And you two might want to see these.
I didn't know you took pictures and sent them
Hmm?
I didn't know you took pictures and sent them
Yeah, I did. I got them right here. Right here. And then there should be a back one.
Middle, where you see that doorway and the lattice, they're proposing a spiral staircase, enclosed spiral staircase to get from one room to the next. And that is evident in this photograph right here, or this drawing, I should say. This is the front from the driveway.
That's probably a better
This
picture.
elevation right here is a spiral staircase from
Do they have that?
And that's the top.
Yes.
What's the new spiral staircase made out of?
It's gonna be iron.
No, I mean the exterior. What's the siding?
The siding
plank.
is gonna be masonite painted the colors to match the house.
Same as the rest of
Mm-hmm. See, yeah, the same colors. Here's a picture of the house.
They probably got it.
Somewhere.
Since we didn't have this information.
prior to the motion. Yes? Okay. The Applications Committee would like to offer this up for a discussion amongst the committee and obviously ask any questions you'd like of the property owners now that we have some further information. Does everybody understand the drawings that we're presented with now? Yeah.
Okay, I would say the first thing, as far as the siding, let's start with the siding. If the building, excuse me, is in the rear of the house or the side of the house, not that visible from the street, we do allow synthetic, or in this case, cement board siding. This, however, is right out there in public view.
Mm-hmm.
So we would recommend cedar, wood siding.
It's gonna be painted. You're not gonna even know the difference. It's gonna look exactly like that right there. Because if it was gonna be not painted and it was gonna be stained or something, yes. But it's a garage.
As far as the windows are concerned, trying to put in something other than what was there would also not be consistent with the guidelines. So if the windows are beyond repair,
They
we
are.
would want to know what exact windows you're putting in its place, but they would have to
I mean, you-
duplicate in size, and not necessarily material, but size and window configuration.
Did you hear what he said?
He
'Cause
said
I
the
didn't-
windows that we do have to duplicate what's there, size, dimensions.
Oh, yeah, yeah, well,
But the stained glasses, what were you telling me, the stained glasses can't go?
Saying that they don't meet the guidelines, that's correct.
But the church across the street has stained glasses. They'll be facing each other.
so you say I can't use the stained glass windows?
Your
Is that what
building-
you're saying?
Your building did not have those, correct?
Well, one thing you could do and still meet the guidelines is put in replacement windows that imitate what's there, and then on the interior of your house, just put small attachments and hang your stained glass.
So this
Just
is, this is
attached.
actually a window,
Right.
and I really want to use these windows.
Well, I don't
If I
understand
have
all
to
the
put them-
houses in our neighborhood that have
I
stained
have-
glass windows. So.
Yeah, they do, and they all have vinyl windows. I mean, I got pictures on here where I can just go down the line. I live across the street from the house that just had the solar panels put up. So, I mean, these are old windows that came from the house across the street, which was a design house. They're antique windows.
Oh, yeah, there's no denying that. I think what the Commissioner Morris's concern is they were never in a garage. This was always a garage, so it was never embellished, I guess would be a good point with.
Right, I understand that, but it will be. It's, you know, I mean, basically, I could use that for whatever I mean, I really want. I mean, if I'm redoing the inside of it, making it nice, I mean, it doesn't per se have to be used to put your lawnmower in. I mean, I got 2 floors there of really great space, you know, that I'm putting, rewiring, replumbing, putting a heat pump on. I mean, why not go with all the bells and whistles and put it, you know, the way that I want it to be? When I'm
guess-
surrounded by other things like, what are they called? Solar panels and clear glass.
Yeah, my
You
neighbor's
know, I
got
don't have a
solar-
problem with it, but I mean, I'm trying to make my garage that looks like this better.
Yeah, my neighbor has solar panels and he's got glass railing. You can see
Clear
through it.
glass.
Clear glass, 4 foot
I
high.
have pictures
I
of
mean,
it,
don't-
and I love
understand.
it, but, I mean, I'm not asking for much to, you know, we're putting a lot of money into this garage
To fix it up.
to fix it up, and it's literally rotted down to there's nothing left on it that's any good. I've had termite, it gets treated. We've had this house for a year in May, and, you know, we're doing everything possible to make it look just kind of like just like the house. But I also want to use it for usable space for myself. And,
Well, I think the committee has to go by the guidelines, and if there's an existing window that we can see, we're supposed to ask you to keep that window there. It's part of the historic nature that, you know, because it's a really cool building. I mean, I
It
drive by
is.
it all the time. It's
It is.
really cool, and you're commended for tackling it, because if you didn't, it may fall down. So, but would it be so bad to take those windows that are there, that are existing,
they're not decent.
reglaze them?
No, they're gone.
The wood is gone. It's
Oh,
totally,
okay.
the reason why we want to do this garage quickly, I mean, now and not wait a year or two. We've
Right.
only been in the house for a year. We've done a lot of work. We're really at the point with this garage that the termite damage is so extensive. I'm afraid it's gonna, eventually, it's gonna fall into Gray Street. I mean, there's a concrete pad in it, which is great on the, you know, on the floor of the first level.
Right.
But it is terrible. It's really bad.
Well,
There's nothing good in it.
we have to go by these guidelines, because see, the idea is that you don't take a garage and turn it into a chapel unless
Why?
it meets all the guidelines of the historic district. They're trying to keep the streetscape as close as possible to, you know, what it was historically. So a way that you could do this is, you don't have to pay for an expensive new window. It's single pane glass. You don't have to go to Marvin or Anderson or any of those. You would be allowed to put a single pane glass window in of that same shape and size. You could almost think of it in terms of a wooden storm window. That's kind of what it is. Paint it just like it's looking fresh, it's looking new, and then on the inside, you can put the stained glass. And I know it seems like, well, we're just splitting hairs, because you're still gonna have stained glass. You know, when you are inside the house, you're gonna see the beauty of the stained glass. And on the
Right.
outside at night, you'll see the beauty of the stained glass. But technically, it it keeps us from, just disregarding what the guidelines.
No, I understand, but how does everybody else get away with putting other things in that come through this board? Really, seriously.
Well, some people have not agreed with us and gone on and had it approved by the city council,
Oh.
who may or may not be I'm
So
not gonna
you're
comment.
saying no to the vinyl windows, is that what I'm understanding? No, so where, okay, so no vinyl windows in the garage? Is that what I'm understanding?
No stained glass and no vinyl.
But you can still use your panel on the inside of the house.
Yeah, well, this is a different
Immediately attached to
size
it.
than the
Yeah.
original window that's in there.
It's,
This is a different size.
right.
It's, you
Right.
know,
And that's why we're not allowed to change sizes and, but you can still have it inside, you know, your regular windows here, that's hanging. You know, we see it a lot in projects, so that you still get the look that you're looking for, but it still meets the guidelines of having a window that looks basically just like that, replace that one.
Is that larger or smaller than the original?
Larger.
it's larger, because
Larger,
it's,
So you would actually be altering the exterior elevation, framing it for larger windows.
yeah.
Correct, because these are 28 by 46.
I have the
and
measurements.
Those look like, you know, plus or minus.
Probably the same height, not same width.
Okay.
It's square, it's
They
square.
do
Okay.
have replacement windows that meet historic guidelines. But in this particular case, to be honest with you, if you had a good carpenter, he could probably repair or even rebuild the existing windows cheaper than replacement windows would cost you.
Well, I don't think they're very efficient to begin with, single paned windows.
They aren't,
They're
but
not.
once you apply your stained glass to the inside, you're getting the equivalent of a double pane. So
Right.
it will be.
Well, yeah, I
comes up.
understand for that, but I'm talking about, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, I got more
Right.
than just the 2 windows to replace.
Are you using this anything other than a garage?
Hmm?
Are you using this is gonna be heated space?
I'm not gonna be using that as to put my lawnmower in, that's gonna be my space.
Oh, so it's
She
heated.
shed.
Yeah, I'm
It's
out.
for
I'm at the
me,
business.
that's why I'm saying, I want it to be what, you know, I
Yeah.
want it to be nice. I don't want it to be, you know, single pane. If I'm in there in the winter and I'm putting a new heat pump system in, my heat's going out the window with a single pane piece of glass. You know, even though it's gonna be insulated, you know. But that's why I wanted vinyl windows. It's just more efficient, and, I mean, the outside of the vinyl windows, I've seen them. I've got many houses in my square in Diamond Hill where they have them painted, and you can't even tell unless you actually go inside the house.
Let me ask this question. So, I think in the application, it is to totally reframe the garage, which
Yeah.
means
Yes.
essentially you want to demolish everything that's there except for the concrete pad
And the
the
roof.
brick pillars.
And the roof.
The builder told me there's nothing in the world wrong with that roof. He said the
So does
walls,
that
he
mean
has
that
no
that
problem.
Completely rewrite,
Even the wainscoting inside is
because it's a new
termite.
construction, essentially,
Well,
on an
it's not
existing
new
pad.
construction, they're keeping the same roof, so. I mean,
They're kind
if
of
you're,
replacing the
if you're
pines.
doing what you say you want to do, I mean, we have to see, we would have to see a more detailed set of plans to begin with.
I didn't hear what he said.
A
I don't
more
hear that
detailed
well.
set
It's
of plans.
not you, it's just I have hearing aids and I don't catch
We need-
everything.
we need to see a detailed set of plans, what type of windows, what manufacturer of windows, the whole thing.
Well, I want vinyl windows. I mean, I don't think I need to carry a vinyl window in here. We know what
No,
vinyl
we-
windows look like. I mean, yes, I'm getting frustrated because there's so many people around me that have them in their house and they come through this board and get them.
So
I
what-
know
what are
that
we-
for a
what are we doing?
fact.
What's the item we're on right now? Because there's just like 4 or 5 in this, so which one are we?
I don't
You're
know.
discussing reframing the garage.
The whole thing's
The
got,
hardy
everything's got to come down. The
siding
whole
and
inside's got to be
Paint to match the
reframed.
house.
It's rotted.
How is how is the roof still viable?
It's 10.
It's heavy,
The
it's a
framing
heavy.
for the roof is still okay?
Yeah.
The trusses
Yeah.
and everything else?
They're
Just-
probably
That's what
knocking
they
out
said.
walls as they go, reframe a section, knock out the next one.
You got it, you
reframe
got it.
So it's pretty much a replacement in kind is what they're doing. And I think that if they're not making changes to the openings, we could go off of photographs where you point and say, we're gonna replace this and this is what goes in here. We're replacing this and what goes in here. But when you're replacing in kind, we do need you to put the same windows back in. And I do understand your frustration of seeing some people with vinyl windows. However, by and large, I don't know for sure, but probably 90% of the neighborhood is the original wood windows. And if every house in the neighborhood went to vinyl windows, you'd have a whole different neighborhood. It'd be kind of sad.
Oh, I understand that,
So-
I understand,
so
but these,
It's little bits and pieces where this happens, and what Commissioner Morris was passing on is that, especially, you've got a contractor that's skilled with historic, that they can probably rebuild that window cheaper than buying a vinyl window.
I don't think he said that. Alan didn't
But-
say that. The window frames that are in there are totally, they're not salvageable. There's no glass in the windows.
No, I understand, but he would build a new single pane window to look like that, and then your
I know what you're
stained
saying,
glass.
I know what you're saying, but if I'm gonna have a new wood window made,
Well, let me tell you this, a wood window has, they'll last 100 years. A vinyl window, they bite the dust after 15 years. They are really, really bad. So from not just the historic standpoint that they take away from the inherent beauty of the buildings, but they just start warping and changing. You
Well,
can't
they-
open them after 15 years. It's like a vinyl window is, well, it depends. I'm saying vinyl like replacement window. I should qualify that. I don't know what brand you're using. So, obviously if it's Anderson, they've got a 20, 30-year warranty. But because you're replacing a kind and it's right on a street, you've got a really special building here. I know it's falling down and the last owner didn't maintain it. And so you're trying to do the right thing here. And I think, probably 80% of your request here is just fine. It's just these windows really are a sticking point. And, I've seen neighborhoods where they let the window replacement happen and it starts looking like a suburban neighborhood when it's all said and done. So that's why the Lynchburg guidelines say that if the window's replacing or facing the street, we need it to look like a replacement of that window specifically. And I do share your frustration with,
no, I know,
other
I
applicants.
understand what you're saying, but to me, if
Yeah.
I'm looking at that window and it's painted green around it like it is right now, and I put a vinyl window and it's painted green, you cannot tell. You really can't
Yeah.
nobody's examining my house that much.
I agree, but from where we're sitting, like, we're here to rule on what the guidelines are, not about what our thoughts are on whether or not it's gonna look right. And I'll quote from the guidelines, "The use of vinyl windows for replacement of deteriorated windows is not generally acceptable. Although discouraged, they may be considered for use at rear facades not readily visible from the street." But all these windows you're talking about are very visible from Grace Street.
Right, and you
so,
can't even
like,
see them
right
now.
there.
And nobody's ever said nothing about looking like that for the last 20 years.
Mrs. Martin, you have something?
You know what I mean?
What do the guidelines say about aluminum clad windows?
The installation of baked enamel extruded aluminum windows may be acceptable. If aluminum windows are applied, they should match historic wood windows as closely as possible in their profile, depth of muntins, and surrounding trim.
I will add to this that it says the required documentation for a COA should include a set of plans, site plans, and specifications required for the project. Plans shall be drawn to scale, and scale include a site plan showing all existing and proposed improvements. Specifications and/or samples of exterior materials may be provided, such as siding, roofing, doors, windows, paint, etc. So we really can't approve what you're asking based on what we've received to this.
What is it that you need? Exactly.
What I
I mean,
just-
I gave you
She has
Hearing
plans.
aids, you have to speak up for because she can't hear.
I gave you plans, which is a very reputable construction company. I know everybody knows of Gertie Construction. That's the plans that Alan gave us, or Tom, one of them. Masonite boarding, I don't feel I need to carry a piece of that. We know what that looks like.
Your plans do show the 6-inch.
Are you
pine
in
plank.
agreement to putting wood windows in?
Yeah,
I'm
I
not,
understand.
but,
Not your typical person can develop a set of plans an architect can read. Come on.
yeah, I'm not going
We're
through
just
all
average
that.
people.
You can rot that and fall to the ground.
Well,
I'm trying to do what I
these-
can.
I think does this committee, if you look over that, and it does call out those, now granted, we just saw these, so most of us were looking at this a few days ago, and we didn't see that, so, but, am I kind of in the right range that, are they, let's talk about the siding. Are they allowed to use that siding?
I would say no.
Okay. So should be the wood siding based on the guideline?
I've bought enough of that and put on the house.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot tell, and I will be very insistent upon, I mean,
And
it's a
Andy,
little bit, yeah.
Andy the builder told me that that would be so close to that siding on the house,
Exact
I
same
bought
thing.
enough siding for that
Can look
house, y'all.
just like that.
In some cases, who's our advocate for this neighborhood? Okay, so one thing I'd like to say is in some houses, the siding has a really distinct profile. In this garage, I think it's a thinner board because it was a lesser quality building, it was an outbuilding. So probably this one might be one of our few situations where hardy plank actually does match what's on there in the butt size of the joints and all of that. So I'm happy to go out, but we have other members.
Well, this is.
I'd like to at least go out with someone else.
This is a prime example of what we're talking about. For instance, if you had come in here and say, okay, this is the hardy plank, the cement siding we want to use, this is an existing clapboard that's on the house. They match identical. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. We need to see this. We didn't have any information.
Everything that's on there is, what is it? It's just wood, it's rotted wood right now, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
it's exactly what's on my house.
Alright.
And,
Well,
I don't see-
we always want to give the benefit of the doubt and go out and do a site visit with you, with someone from the committee, because if we hold a tape measure up to it, we find that it's close, like within, it has to be pretty close, then the hardy
And it will
board
be.
might be considered perfectly fine. Because I'd like to just knock out as many things. If you're replacing in kind, I don't think they have to redraw every elevation, but they do have to take a photo and just do the point and shoot so we know for sure. And this elevation that you drew, we do have to get those windows back to
These are doors right
what size they were. So like I said, about 80%
well,
of what you're trying
I
to do is
mean,
pretty
at this
good.
point, I mean, I'll put other siding up, but I'll leave the windows just like they are if I'm gonna go through all this. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to better my property and prevent people from having to look at this.
I got people smoking
And,
crack in
and
the
I'm not
open area
getting any
in the bottom,
help.
so,
I'm not getting anything, so,
I'm trying to protect myself and my insurance wise by closing everything off down there.
I have people that go in there and sleep. We have the lights been left on in there. We've had to turn the breaker panel off. I mean, it's just getting to the point where
Well, you
it's
certainly are.
dangerous. It's going
Yeah.
too far.
I
I
think you-
move that the application be tabled until we have more specific information.
Second on that.
And
Oh, I'm not doing it then.
Y'all just forget it. I'll let it fall.
Well, let's
in
just
the
move
street.
on. Well, I'm still putting the fence up. Yeah, forget the garage. We're not gonna do it. There's just no sense to go have
Thank
to
you
keep
for
going through
wasting my
this.
time.
Yeah. What do we need to, let me ask you something else. If it's dangerous, what do we need to do to take it down? Because it is gonna fall into the street. I mean, what are our options? Because
I don't know if that's any.
we wanna fix it from the ground up.
Vegetation is-
We really do.
We're trying to meet you halfway. You do have to understand that you moved into a historic neighborhood.
Right,
You
I
were
understand.
You were doing a great job at wanting to fix this, so
Oh,
we
yeah.
want to see this. It is not uncommon for people to have to come here 2 times. We'd love it if they didn't, but if you, I'm not gonna lay this on the builder because they weren't necessarily, they don't know exactly what you're bringing in. But most of these historic people, when they come in, know that here's your checklist of what you need to bring in. So there's just things that we have to miss or things that we have to cover, and if they're not there, we're not being fair to the next applicant when we ask. We really want you to, I personally would like to see this restored.
Do y'all
Well, I'm
all know
really
what
being
clapboard
pushed.
looks like?
We do,
I
Do you
can put
know
that
what
money
Mason
towards
Lake
something
siding
else.
looks like? Do you know what hardy plank looks like?
we do, but we have to go out and see what's on your building.
Why do I have to
measure.
bring 2 pieces of boards in here to
You
show
don't,
y'all?
you don't. We've offered to come out and look
Can you?
at it.
Then sure,
yeah,
come on
I mean,
out then.
Yeah.
Because this is,
anything we can do to help make this move along, because you're doing a good thing for this neighborhood, we want to see it done. You're already taking care of the house, but it does sometimes take a little more, and I'm sorry it takes more, but
Well,
ultimately
I
it's for the benefit
understand,
of the
believe me,
neighborhood.
because I'm all for that. That's why I bought
Yeah.
in this neighborhood. But being the fact that it's a garage and it's gonna look just like the house when it's done, I just don't see, like I said, I've got solar panels that I look at every day. Come on.
I
You
I
can't
know.
sit
It's
here and tell
frustrating.
me
And we got
that there's
purple
no
doors.
ways around putting masonite boarding up
Right.
on there that's going to match.
Well, let us try to help work through this,
Yeah.
because we'd really like to see
I mean,
this
I could put the
restored.
money towards a million other things than this garage, and I can let it
but
rot
then
to the
you won't-
ground.
Then you won't have that cool place to hang out in, so we do need you to, we
Well,
wanna see
I
it.
know, but
I
I
think we
just,
can
it's
come
very
to-
frustrating to me because I'm
I'm
the,
sorry.
I'm paying for it, just like everybody else does
Yeah.
with their properties. But, it's just,
Well,
All right,
like,
so-
If it's
I'm,
okay
I'm,
with you,
I'm
we can-
willing to budge a little bit, but not much. And
Right,
I
so-
understand, because I
so we'll
want it to
table-
look like the house, and it
Exactly.
will.
Exactly. So we'll table that aspect of it. We'll probably a pair of us will team up on it. We'll try and coordinate that and
yeah,
make
and
a time that
if
will
maybe
work.
like Wednesday of
It's
this
most
week,
convenient.
if that might
Most
work.
convenient.
Are
Yeah,
you
'cause-
around Wednesday this
because
week?
the
I work
builder-
at home.
The
You can-
builder wants to start in
That's great.
2
Yeah.
or 3 weeks. so-
Okay,
Okay.
well, we'll figure out if it's,
I'm home
You
every
and
day
I?
because I work
Okay.
there.
Okay.
okay.
All you
We'll
have to do
give-
is ring the doorbell so I hear it,
Sure.
Okay,
and I'm there.
okay, we'll get in touch with you in advance. I'll leave a note on your door like tomorrow. We'll talk about it after the meeting.
Okay,
And then set up, give you two times that might work, and then we'll come out, because we really do want to see this restored. What you're doing is good, we just have to follow these guidelines. and
I
then
know,
we'll
but I
get you
just, it's
going.
very frustrating that
I'm-
nobody else seems to be doing it, that I'm in my
No, a lot of
neighborhood.
people are.
Some
The
of those
pe-
things were and some were
You know.
rejected.
And
but they were
additionally,
approved elsewhere.
the ones that did follow the guidelines, you can't tell because they still look like old buildings.
Well,
So-
no, you're right, you're right,
They
I
did it so
understand
well that
that.
you can't tell
I
they did
understand that.
So,
So,
anyway.
you gonna sit, or you gonna
No.
wait outside, because I know he's hot.
There was
But,
another item regarding wrought iron fencing.
I'm sorry.
Well, she don't have a picture of it, so there's no need to even
Okay.
discuss it.
Well, let's
Oh, for the
cover,
style
we can
of
cover
fence.
that when we
Okay.
meet with you
We
too.
My
can-
main concern is to get that structure safe.
Absolutely.
Right, I get it.
I don't care what kind of
No.
windows goes in it, I just want the structure safe.
Okay,
Perfect. And so, yeah, we'll try and do it this week
Yeah,
so that there's
definitely.
no.
And you're gonna go over the fencing and the whole bit?
yep, we'll meet.
Okay.
We'll bring your application with you, and let's just go through it like a checklist and try to find the right path that works for you guys, but still meets.
All right, and do you know when that will be?
We're
Because
thinking Wednesday,
Okay,
and
that's
we'll
fine.
figure out, I'll leave a note, I'll swing by, leave a note on your door tomorrow.
No, I'm there, I'm
Okay,
there.
I'll bang on the door. I'll find you.
Okay.
We'll get it done. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, could we get a copy of that so that we can bring that out? Do you mind if I make more copies and I'll just bring this out?
to you?
Do I need to get the builder there?
I can get, I'll get out there if I can.
That'd be fine. We'll give you the time tomorrow, and that way you can give him and see if that makes sense. That's fine. Yep, doesn't
fine.
hurt to have that.
back, you need
I probably do.
Yeah,
I'm
I'll-
gonna make a copy.
Do you mind? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I personally don't need a note.
did you see what they're doing to the bottom of that building?
It's significant, yeah.
I mean, they're putting
Right, well, we'll
plastic
go over
windows
that.
in the openings.
We'll go
We'll
over
look
all
at it
that
and
with
We'll
them.
make sure they have all the appropriate information when they come back.
It's gonna be much
'Cause it's
easier if
staple.
we're there on site
Yeah.
to talk this over
Basically,
with
what they're
them.
doing is totally changing that building, which is okay, I guess, if you want to do that, but
Well, some areas they're allowed to, but we'll bring the guidelines with us, just like we do with the other applicants, and we'll show them how that works, and we'll find a happy medium.
Yeah, sounds good. We will move along to 321 Madison Street.
well, it's easier said than done.
Actually, I'm not, since I'm Scott Glass, I'm not truly the petitioner, Chris is,
Oh, yes.
but I'm more of the aide de camp for this one here.
My fault for putting his name in where my name belongs.
I know, that application sometimes is funny. But I'm here to help Chris with whatever questions you guys might have for each of these as we go through.
And he's helped me a lot with the drawings, which I produced, and he redlined for me and helped me
Perfect. And we've got
describe stuff.
several items to discuss. I'm trying to figure out if they're placed here in order. 1, 2, 3, okay, yes. So the first would be construction of a new set of exterior steps from left side porch to grade.
Visible there on the bottom
Bottom
left
left-hand
and
side.
the bottom right. So,
Anything other than this,
Sorry?
you need, anything other than this right here, you need to tell us about it, or?
no, matching the style of the front stairs, and the, dealing with the railing right there, which is solid at the moment, so that you can exit that side of the porch
Okay.
to come down into the yard and go around back.
Applications committee?
We find that this meets the guidelines. We move that it be approved as submitted.
Perfect, all those, well, yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
You said that before discussion.
I did.
You-
Is there any discussion? Would you?
Because I do just need a little
Should've
clarification
said second.
on one aspect of it, just to make sure.
Yes,
I
please,
understand.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so on sheet, okay, it's just the front elevation. So that extension of the bay window, is that where that bay window's a one-story bay?
We're just doing
No,
the
no,
stairway.
just
right
that
now.
little step.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Just a little step.
I'm sorry, I thought you were doing the whole thing.
No, one,
apologize.
one at a time. They're actually individual action items, so. We heard a motion to approve the side steps as submitted. Do we have a second?
James.
Second.
James, was there any discussion on that particular item? None. Call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Steps are good to go.
One down.
Number 2 would be the construction of a new kitchen addition at the rear of the house.
Those are both in the bottom left and right again. The kitchen is actually in the thinner part of the bump out at the back there at the moment. There is a photograph of what is currently the back stairway into the backyard at the moment, included in this set of things. There.
That's the addition there. There's, of course, the existing wing.
That's
Yeah.
existing right there.
Yeah, the light colored thing where all the text is on top of it is
So
the
where's the
exist,
proposed addition?
the dark
There.
to the right.
So that's what you're saying is the
That
kitchen.
and that.
It's a bump out, so there are existing doorways that go clear through the house to the front, and what's there right now is this little mudroom. It's kind of maybe about 4 by 6 feet, and it's slightly lower than the rest of the house also, and there's external cladding on the inside of it, which makes it clear that it was added at some point. And the doorway going upstairs has an external door on it as well, like there's external cladding on it, and it was clear that it was the maid's quarters or something, for somebody to enter from outside of the house, and that and there's a room above the kitchen, and that kitchen was.
Do we have existing pictures of the back ones?
There should be a shot of that back corner.
Is
But,
it-
yep,
Yeah, that's the one
That's
right
it.
there.
yep,
Yeah,
Little,
yeah.
with
In
a
the-
little screen. or-
in the middle on the bottom there.
So this addition would replace basically what that is as a larger hipped
So you're coming,
configuration.
so that's going up so we'd come out to the,
It would extend to the
Back
left,
of that house.
to the left, to the length of the,
so that window would disappear.
Correct.
yes.
The kitchen window, correct.
So that's,
Yes.
okay.
Yes,
That's
it would
why-
extend all the way from
that
here
looks
to
like a
here.
little porch addition to me, but you're saying
Yeah.
that's the kitchen, part of the kitchen.
Yes, it will be
Open up
part of
that
the.
whole wall there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So this motion is just for that?
Just for that item?
This is compatible with the guidelines. I move that it be approved as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Couple little things. Can you clarify the roof on that, the roof material?
The one on the little bumped
kitchen.
out thing is 10. I was imagining it
Okay.
would be 10.
Okay, and then can that be part of the enter that
Motion.
into the motion. And then on your left elevation, and, proportionally, it all looks great. I totally agree with passing it. This is just a minutia, but it is called out in our guidelines that when you add on, like if you look at your left elevation and see how it's exactly flush with the end gable wing, if you could pull that back about 6 inches to let that vertical board show through, because that's another one of those times where that way it doesn't look like it was built at the same time. It's differentiated.
It would be
And-
backset enough so, I mean, you could actually frame out the inside of the existing kitchen so you could still get a continuous wall. You'd have something a little bit thicker at the existing kitchen so that the evidence of it would be still from the outside, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just.
But there wouldn't be a corner
Yeah,
on
the-
the internal part of things?
There would be a way to do it, like, I guess, where it
Furring
is
out that one
flush.
wall,
Yeah,
yeah.
furred out.
Yeah.
So it would be smooth.
That actually wouldn't be hard to do.
But
Okay.
I don't know precisely where it is in the guidelines, but they always say, hold it back from those corners just a little bit. It's a common technique, so you can tell the old from the new. I do want to point out that this addition that we're passing, recommending that it be passed, that it does duplicate the details of the house, it duplicates proportions of windows, and it's in the style that the owner wants. So referencing back to some earlier ones, we should keep that in mind, because this isn't a modern addition or anything like that, but that holding it back is sufficient to, call it out as a separate thing.
Right. Any further discussion on this particular action item?
What was I revising my motion to?
Just have the tin roof.
Verify the tin roof.
And
The other part is just a recommendation, it's not required as part of the guidelines, moving it back. That's not a requirement. So that's just totally recommended, I think, right? That was written.
I don't know where it is in the guidelines. We've come across it before.
Actually, I think it would, in some ways, it would solve kind of some of the questions I had about not the cornice, but the fascia and the length of the roof right there,
The
like.
soffit,
Yeah, that it's,
It would.
was gonna have to wrap around in
It
some
would.
weird way, otherwise, if you set it back, it can be.
It solves so many detailed things for you.
And you would just thicken the wall in the existing kitchen, which would get some more insulation and deeper jamb for that one window. It really actually would work well.
I revised my motion that the kitchen be approved as submitted with a metal roof, and recommended that it be brought in at least 6 inches to expose the original corner board of the kitchen, but not required. How's that?
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on that? No, hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 2 is good to go. Thank you. Number 3, construction of a new second-floor bay window over the existing first-floor one.
There's a photo of the original setup as well in that same. There it
There it
is,
is.
Yep.
on the bottom left.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasoning for that?
So the inside of the house has got has been moved around quite a bit, but one of the oddities of the second floor, which is related to it was apartments at some point, and there's a strange, in that room above the bay window there, the entrance to the room allows you access to a tiny little back stair that you have to go through the room to get to the room above the kitchen and to get to the back stairs. So it was like, I guess probably originally it was sort of as if the maid could get to maybe the kids' room or something. There's a trunk room back there. And so in an attempt to solve not having to go through somebody's room to get to the back or vice versa, we were going to move that little hallway, and we're gonna have to take a little chunk out of the, sizable 3x3 or 3x4 chunk out of that room. So as a way to get some floor space back, I was thinking about extending the bay window up to the second floor.
Make it more symmetrical all the way up.
Yeah, the front of the house in the top left elevation has another single-story, bay window. So it would not be exactly the same on both sides, but yes. And as far as tying it into the roof, that was my best guess. As you can see, the bay window on the first floor elevation on the top left there, which is really light, encroaches into the floor space of it goes above the floor of the second floor. So I was imagining that the way to tie it in would be to go into the roof line of the house, but.
Yeah, you don't really have much of a choice.
Same size
Applications
windows,
committee?
standing seam metal.
City scene, right.
Yeah.
This, unfortunately, this addition changes the side facade of the building, creating what we call a false sense of history as to what was originally there. If this could be done in a way that it actually shows it's, again, being done in 2017, I'm not quite sure how you do that. If
Does it,
it does not meet the guidelines, that doesn't mean we can't approve it. But,
does it matter at all that this is a corner lot, and so
well, it is hidden, I know, I've been to the house.
it's up the side, up the street, towards 309, that's all I was
That's
gonna
what,
add.
that's what I mean.
Are we in the discussion period yet?
Well, no, I haven't made a motion. It does not meet the guidelines, so I will move that it not be approved by this committee.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, now, we'd love to have some discussion.
Because there's a really defined roof on that bay window, this might be a constructability thing where, just like the corner, moving it back actually will help you with some of your detailing. I don't, the other committee members should weigh in on this, of course, but if the applicant left some of that detailing of what's there, or at least showed where the old one ended and the new started, right now just blends shoop right up. Whereas if you could give the definition of the older, and it might actually be easier to build it that way, so that if someone looked down there, they could see that, oh, check that out, that used to be a one-story bay, now it's a two-story bay. I do think that because it's really tucked back in there, we probably aren't gonna give it the same scrutiny. If it was on the front of the building, kind of no way, no how, because it would change the facade so much, but it's really tucked back there. But if you could give, what Commissioner Morris was saying, is show that, okay, this wasn't built all at one time, which the current drawing shows, but just by having that horizontal kind of cut through there and show old versus new, and maybe a little trim board or something.
Like a horizontal trim.
I think she's saying leave.
Even
I think-
more.
I think
Almost leave the
leave portion of that
line.
roof, the
Yeah.
fascia.
The existing roof is in place
Right.
on the
And-
bay itself, is what you're saying?
Yes,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I look at this and I'm thinking, it doesn't have to, the fascia, the top fascia of the new structure doesn't necessarily have to meet the other one. You may have smaller windows, but this is something Scott could help you with, maybe kind of just define that a little better. I think you can still accomplish what you're trying to do. I think it just needs to, it just doesn't need to destroy what's there and make it look like this portion's always been there. And again, the windows don't have to necessarily be, they might be smaller windows. You may drop the roof line a little bit, but you've got a competent man there. I'm sure he can work it out for you.
But
Okay.
yes, having that lip of the original roof line hanging out around there, almost like an apron or a skirt
Like this,
hanging out around there.
which to me actually.
Would be a
nice.
defining-
I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
It looks nice, yeah.
Well, the upper roof, I mean, from a height standpoint, I think you're still gonna have to tie in around the existing corners, but you could do it in
Yeah.
such a way that you don't, it's attached to it, you're not modifying it in any way, shape, or form, so, kind of following the guidelines. If somebody wanted to take that off later on, the existing corners would still be in place, at least the existing shape of the lower one would still be in place.
Then if you can drop that upper one below the original, I think,
I think if there's enough, I'm not sure what the headroom is there, if there's enough headroom, yeah, but potentially you could.
One other thing that, you and your architect might consider is, you're having to tie into your existing shingles. Even though obviously you like this drawing, everyone would, because it shows a nice-looking roof. Perception-wise, you'll barely ever see that pitched roof, so if you did a flat roof and not tie in, it may save you a little money. Plus, again, back to Commissioner Morris's point, is that it would differentiate. And I really think when I look at your photos, you're always looking up at it. You're never gonna see that nice detail that you put up there. So at least someone, if they ever go to investigate the house at some point, they'll know that it was different and it was a different time. But you guys could work out the details of that. That's one way of doing it, so you're not having to tie into your roof, and it may even save a little money, which always helps.
And again, if the headroom's there, that potentially is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Following that discussion, is there any change in the motion?
I move that we table this for next meeting with the revised elevation.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Scott, it might be a good idea just to also sketch the kind of floor plan to show us, why that's necessary, And that doesn't have to be fancy at all, just kind of very, very quick little thumbnail thing saying this is the issue and this is why we need to do this kind of thing.
Okay. So we've got that to work on for next time, which should not be a problem. Let's see. Moving on to item number 4, removal of one exterior window and relocation of another.
Bottom left, the window in red would be going away, and bottom right, the window in red would be moving to the window in black.
Is that the way it used to be? Is that original?
I think, well, I have, not with me, but I have proof that renovations of the second floor, part of the interior cladding that I was talking about in the little mudroom right now, that a big part of the second floor was added, bumped back outwards towards the back. So that second window that window in red there, I believe was added when those things happened. If you dig into the fascia boards and stuff around the top of the house, you see kind of gingerbreading and all kinds of other stuff that's related to what was the old house. So I'm not entirely sure when those changes were made, when it became less sort of gingerbready Victorian and more this kind of colonial vernacular stuff. But that bathroom had also been,
Is that a bathroom with this one?
yeah, that window, there's the bathroom window. And so I don't know how long it's been there. I don't think it's been there the whole time that the house has been there.
You want to move that for a functional purpose? Or for
I want to just remove it, actually. The window that's right around the corner from it, the other one there on the right-hand side, will become the bathroom window.
This one.
Okay.
And it'll be more symmetrical under the, rather than being to the left the way it is now on the back of the house, it'll be right under the other upstairs window.
The red window on the right-hand side,
That would
Yeah.
go away in
that
favor of
is,
this.
what is that looking into now? Is that a different, it's not the bathrooms in the corner?
Yeah, there's this like little rectangular entryway area that's outside the bathroom.
Okay. So that just
Yeah.
goes away,
Anteroom.
one moves over, and then
Yeah.
on this one here,
It just
You
goes,
remove that
yeah,
one
it goes away.
I think
So,
it's really safe to say that they're going back to the original position. 'Cause
probably so.
They, all through the house, they're stacked, and it's
Mhm.
traditional to have it stacked, so it's not, it's almost putting it back where it was supposed to be.
I move that it be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I think just because it does appear that it was altered to make an interior apartment layout work, that this makes sense because it's going back to what the original vernacular would have been for that house.
Well, also, I don't think, the red window doesn't seem to be in the middle of those other two either, so it seems to be just off kiltered, so it looks like it was added there at some point.
And
On that left elevation, that red window is just leaving? Is that
Yes.
part of this, what we're doing?
yes,
Okay, and the one to the right is there and that's staying, correct?
the one to the right is moving underneath, so it's symmetrical with the upstairs.
No,
No, he's talking
Sorry.
about that other great.
Yes, that one's
Sorry.
staying, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
you're good.
Should have put a big X if it was on
And as
there.
part of our discussion, I'm going to take less than 30 seconds to say this. Sometimes applicants look at these films on TV to see what we talk about. So for anyone who's thinking about doing an application, this type of drawing, it doesn't have to be like this stylistically, but
There
this
you go.
really helps us. We know what's going out, we know what's coming in, we know how it changes the overall effect. And where this group struggles is so many times we're shown things that it's just it's kind of on this side of the building. And if we have drawings, we can base it on something. It's just like legal documents are based on words, our documents are based on drawings. So I do appreciate that you've submitted this in a clear fashion.
Thank
In
you.
addition to following the guidelines.
Thanks, Scott.
So we had a motion and a second for the changing of these windows. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, we're good to go on the windows. Let's see, repaint the house and replace dry rotted areas of exterior. And I believe we received,
Are you taking,
Paint.
isn't this vinyl sided right now, or am I mistaken?
It is.
Oh.
So I think that would probably be part of the discussion.
It's separate document.
okay. Here we go.
Hope you're not painting the vinyl.
The bottom?
The vinyl.
Oh, the vinyl. So, no, but the problem, well, there's two problems. The vinyl is currently providing me with some measure of weatherproofing. And I haven't really dug under it. I know enough because of the things that I can see internally that it's, is it Dutch lap? The siding is Dutch lap, so it's everything's flat with the little recess,
Right,
the little
right.
half-circle recess.
Right.
I don't know what the condition is. I'm pretty darn sure it's all lead paint, so I don't know what the, but maybe if it's been cooking long enough underneath the vinyl siding, that most of it's come off anyway, but I don't know what the issues there are. Well, actually, the other issue with the builders that I've talked about insulating and doing everything I can to make it as tight as possible, is that if they had their druthers, since the siding is also the sheathing of the house, there's it's just siding and then inside the house, it's right up on the framing. So, they were talking about wrapping the house and re-siding it. I know that there's wood cladding that would match, but the outside of the house, the vinyl is more of a sort of a lap look at the moment too, so I don't know that that matters historically or anything, probably not, but it's been there for at least 30 or 40 years, so. But painted siding is what I'm getting at here, not, yeah.
And what's the material of the siding?
Well, it's currently wood. I don't have a problem with wood. I think there's problems, again, with what is the front of the house, what is the rear of the house. If I want to use other materials, on parts of it that are the rear, where is the rear? Is it rear enough, because I have streets on two sides and, basically I want to make the house tight as I can, without wrecking the look of it, because we love the way it looks. And
So this motion is to paint the house?
Yep.
And these are the colors?
And to, well,
I saw
yeah.
a few colors in here.
Yeah, there's two different schemes. I asked Scott about, what's Victorian, and the answer is, there's a lot of answers.
Flip the coin.
Yeah, and so I started Googling stuff, and a lot of it was pretty loud and, not what we were necessarily interested in. So I just kind of, I looked around the neighborhood, and I was sort of looking for something that was maybe not exactly like everything else, but that was sort of in the same saturation range. And the one below this was actually based on a Victorian place that I saw that was brick. So, a kind of a terracotta sort of monochrome, which actually a lot of Victorian places are kind of do that monochrome thing, but with darker trim as opposed to lighter trim. So, I don't know, I'm just, yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think these meet the guidelines as far as colors, aren't they?
Point of clarification, you're removing the vinyl?
You were not planning on removing the vinyl, or are you?
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
that's what I
Okay,
was
so you
planning
are.
to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure myself, okay.
And then
So-
replacing the dry rotted areas, which are.
Yeah,
So you are
because
back to the original.
that
Okay,
is,
okay.
that is part of the issue, which we'll
Okay.
talk about when we get to the roof.
So we'll be back to the original sign,
Yep.
original pattern.
Victorian paint had a diversity of colors.
Yep.
They recommend for the body, tan, red, green, brown. I think your first one was tan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's kind of a brownish. Trim accents, darker colors, such as the dark olive, salmon red, dark brown. So your second theme would be more on the Victorian
Hmm.
guideline,
So I think it's a nice look.
with the darker color as the trim. Now, you could use the first one, put a darker color on the trim.
Right,
These-
sort of
these are
reverse the,
recommended. I think, these are recommended colors, recommended, so I think either one
Yeah.
would be fine, so I would move that your paint colors be approved as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the colors? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, you picked some great colors there, those
Yeah, I
work.
think the big thing is contrasting colors, more
Mhm.
or less.
I think you chose well.
Okay, let's see,
Okay.
rebuild the garage accessory building as shown on the accompanied preliminary elevations.
Now, you've heard our last discussion on rebuilding garages, so you should be all set on this one.
well, yeah, you can see what I've got. Actually, just sort of anecdotally, I've been told several times by the city assessors that that particular building adds no value to the property at the moment. Like I took that to mean there is no value there, that the assessed amount of my property has nothing to do with that particular building.
It will if you fix it.
It will. That's my hope. Essentially, I kind of want to take the front part of it and extended back. You can see that it's got this sort of shed slope in the original picture. It's got this shed slope and this flat roof on the back. Had a dirt floor originally. I'm pretty sure that it housed animals in the back at some point.
Is that facing your house?
Yes.
So it's not facing the neighbor, correct?
No.
Okay.
And it does have a small, I think it was a hayloft, actually, above the bottom part, which was clearly a carriage storage area. It does have two, about 10-foot high swinging doors on it. I'm proposing a single door, probably on a track that would go sideways so that it doesn't swing out into the street, if I can arrange that with my neighbor. The yard side of things is what you're looking at with the doors and the windows here. There are two little windows that have little iron bars in them at the moment. They're not actual windows. So I was kind of gonna, sort of mirror that in both above those and on either side of the door, which I'm going to replace with a wooden door, and on either side of another large door, there will be sort of two mirrored windows on the right-hand side of the building.
So are you rebuilding this roof totally across that full facade?
Yeah, the current foundation on it is brick, and on the far side of it, towards my neighbor, it's C-shaped. So it's been in pretty bad shape ever since we've owned the place, but yeah, this is a total rebuild,
So which elevation, and I apologize, I was at your house and I forgot to look at this, so
that's fine.
which side faces the street?
So the bottom left faces Fourth.
Okay.
The bottom right faces the back side of my house, my yard. The top right faces the Harrison Street yard, and the back sticks into my yard, but is still on my property.
Your yard has some slope from right to left?
It does.
Down to
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a gable here, and then it's a shed and who knows what
Right.
back
Yeah.
over here. But
Yeah,
so, yeah,
there's-
the gable would be basically emulated by all the way across as opposed to the, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Shed and two-directional,
And I sort of imagined how did you
push the
is it
road.
that way? I imagined underneath there would be these open, as if you could see the rafters. It wouldn't be no fascia. It would be,
Rafter tails.
yeah.
Exposed rafter tails.
So the street side drops down.
Correct.
Yeah, 3 feet, about 3 feet.
So this, and we're not allowed to comment on inside the building, it's just for our knowledge, look at this. So you have your parking area on the front elevation facing Fourth.
Yeah.
Then when you walk in on your right elevation facing your yard, you kind of go up a little bit to that little loft area. Okay.
Yep. And that's the way it currently is, actually. There's the carriage, the garage part of it is down 3 feet to street level, well, sidewalk level. And then there's a set of very dangerous stairs inside that you come up to go into that busted door into the yard.
So does that go under the whole garage, that bottom level?
It does not. It's currently the front half.
Okay.
All right.
So you're changing the roof, correct?
Yeah, so the back half of the current one is kind of, it doesn't have eaves. You see how it's flat. It slopes down pretty precipitously, and then it's flat all the way across the back.
So it looks like the left side with those two little windows, that's a gable, and then it goes to a shed? Is that what's going on
Yes.
there?
Yes.
Please.
So you're keeping that front part, or you're removing everything?
I'm rebuilding the whole thing.
So do you understand that? He's proposing to demolish that entire structure and rebuild.
Oh, you're demolishing it?
Yeah.
and totally rebuilding it?
Yep.
No. Well, so, doesn't he have to get approval for us for demolishing it?
Yes.
But it could be, if we do agree, it's all wrapped into the same, you don't have to use two separate applications, do you?
No, I just want you to understand he is
Right.
present to demolish that.
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
I don't know that there is any salvageable structure there, particularly because of the foundation being in the condition it's in.
can we see that, can we see the existing one again? Pretty shabby.
It's not
pretty bad.
assessed at all either.
No assessment.
So
I stepped in and stepped
that
out.
would.
Yeah,
maybe
don't go in there.
non-contributing? Maybe?
I don't know. Is it a non-contributing building?
Can I use it?
I mean, do you know if it's, in the historic district, if it's a contributing or non-contributing building? Do you know that?
I don't think it is. I think I remember looking at the, I mean, I know, of course, the main house is, but I don't believe this is.
Okay. Is that, and this is me looking at this thing, it almost looks like it's optical illusion, but to the right of that, the first door on this part of it,
Mm-hmm.
to the right of that,
Mm-hmm.
it almost looks like that other building is going back. Is that, or is that whole thing flush in the front? Is that-
Yeah. I cut these together from multiple photographs
Oh,
to try to make it. Actually, what I did was I had the panorama thing on my camera, and so I was doing this in my yard. So it's a little wonky, but
It is.
yeah, it's flat all the way
Did
across.
a nice optical illusion there. Okay.
Same
so-
elevation all across.
Yeah.
Is it all rotted out inside?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Well, I will make a motion that the existing building be demolished and the new structure erected as drawn.
Is there a second to that?
Can I clarify one more?
Please.
There's no, what materials,
Well, I was just gonna say,
I mean, what
what are
type
the
of
materials?
windows?
Yeah, let me back up on this thing a little bit.
Are they
Roof pitch.
Yeah, roof pitch.
vinyl?
I have all of that information.
Is that something, I'm sure you have to do this right away, maybe this is something that you can, when you submit the other one, just
Mhm.
kind of add to it?
Measurements
Maybe what we
and
could do with
materials
this
and-
meeting is approve the demolition.
Yes, you can do that.
Is that,
I would like to have them at least verify these existing heights before the demolition happens, because once it's gone, it's gone. And I do want to commend the applicant for this is an easier application because you're maintaining that proportion of almost like a 1.5 story, whereas a lot of people would replace this with a 24-foot wide by 2-foot, 2-story tall, or what have you, and it would be totally out of keeping. The fact that, I think you're working on your existing footprint, are you rebuilding on top of the
Oh, yeah.
size? Okay.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're rebuilding on the existing footprint, you're a 1.5 story, which represents what you already have. Well, I'm using that term loosely because it's kind of a short 2-story. But anyway, proportionally, it keeps the streetscape. Had you come in with a totally different building, I don't think this would be nearly as easy. Are we kind of morphing into the comment thing? Because the only thing I'd say is that's a very, very long building to have all the same matching roof. If you're going to come back and show what materials and heights and roof pitches, give it some consideration. You're the applicant, you can decide as to whether you could differentiate, because there were clearly 2 buildings here, and, would you be open to dropping it some to show that break? You're showing a trim board there, but that's pretty subtle. And again, I'm not saying I would turn it down as drawn. I really appreciate that you're doing open rafter tails, because that's very much in keeping with what's there. It's not a slick Victorian garage. It's not what they call a folly, all trimmed out. It's rough and tumble, and so the exposed rafter tails are an important part that keep it looking like a more vernacular garage or shed or,
I think we'd also need a color
Stable.
scheme on this as well.
And
I do have some evidence that it was painted at some point, a long time ago. So I was
2008.
assuming
I mean,
it was gonna be
1908.
similar to the house, so.
I agree, that since you do have two different roof lines on this one, I think breaking those other two would be a nice, nod to the original structure, and you may want to, and again, I don't know if it's totally necessary, but I think that might, just a slight break, if it drops just the height of a fascia board or something.
Well, my house does that in the rear too, so that might be a nice
So,
echo.
so in concept, I think, it looks fine, we just need to kind of fine tune it a little bit with the materials. So I will revise my motion. Are we all done with conversations?
Yes.
I move that demolition be approved for the existing building. In concept, the proposed drawings are acceptable with slight modifications and material listings.
To be, right, and to be presented at the,
And to be tabled for the next meeting.
or
that-
longer,
does that
or
give you-
longer
does
if
that-
need be, it's up to you all.
Does that give you enough time?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
Okay, but just verifying, Ms. Dianich wanted the existing heights of the building documented.
Oh, yes.
So before we're gonna give you a demolition permit, we want to submit the measurements.
Yep,
Cool? Okay.
yep.
Just some general as-built
Right.
stuff is what you're looking
I may have to do some brush removal so that can be accurately done.
for.
plus or minus 6 inches.
Okay.
Scott, do you know?
I think we had a second, you second his motion? Did anyone second his
I
motion?
think James did.
Okay.
Or I'll second it. I think you did.
I hadn't,
Oh.
but second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. So we're clear on that. Good for demolition after the appropriate information submitted to the city, and then we await a return for the more detailed information on the design. Let's see. Looks like remove existing hidden gutter system and replace with copper half round. This on the main building
Yeah, on the,
throughout, even on the,
actually I hadn't considered the gutter system on the shed, but I was assuming that was gonna be half round, or on the back building.
Do you have a picture?
I really didn't include that, did I? Actually, the Google Maps does, the Street View does a pretty decent job of showing
are
what they
you
look
having
like.
trouble with leaking?
Really am. The fascias and the board right under the fascias is are gonna need to be replaced.
What kind of roof? You got a slate roof, right?
Yes. Well, it's hybrid at the moment. This will be the second thing, but this material was approved a long time ago to go on the back of the house.
So that, you're saying it's the front, the main house is original slate and this is what's in the back, or?
Yes, the main house, the house was originally Amherst slate. So that's what you're seeing in this, from this point of view, is the Amherst slate on the front side, and the dark line above the fascia there is the hidden gutter system.
Guidelines recommend that the hidden gutter system be repaired. I'll have to move that this not be approved as submitted.
Is there a second to that?
Can that picture be blown up? just to get that roof. Is this a little, I'm trying to make out what that is on top of the roof there. Oh, it's just, oh, so, okay, so we've got something very similar to this in, on Cavil Street. And he did in fact repair all that.
Is the hidden gutter on the porch roof also?
Yes, which I have, that's brand new copper, well, brand new copper, it's 8, 9 years old, but they did redo that, and it was dear.
It's a tough one because your gutter system and fascia board returns on all of the corners. It's very specific to the house. So when you add a half round, it does change it pretty substantially.
And plus, you have that unique detail on the, just above that too.
The little wedges that hold it up.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We're not consultants for this purpose of this meeting, obviously, but it could be that Commissioner Morris could put you in contact with the person that repaired the system, if they had success with that. Because
Mm.
as you hear over and over, anytime we can see you repair things and keep it original, that's definitely better than a new system going on.
Well, I mean, if I were to, I guess, it's tin at the moment, it's painted tin, and that is a distinct part of the reason why it's failed in so many places. So, I guess if I needed to ask, I would probably prefer that it be copper at some, rather than,
Or rubber.
well, I have tried that in a couple of places, just, as a patch sort of solution, but that seems to fail as well. And the problem being that it fails into the architecture rather than into the yard or onto the roof. So,
I mean, I sympathize with you. I have the same exact problem. A little different situation. I have a metal roof. The whole thing's metal, but I've got 2 people actually that I can put you in contact with that so they could take a look at it. And Scott
so
probably has-
if I were to replace the tin with something that would last longer,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can certainly replace that with copper.
as long as the profile's the same.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think, my original idea was just an objection to the engineering part of it.
Yeah.
That when it goes, it really goes.
We
So-
don't disagree. It's just one of those historic, necessities here.
Yeah.
And pretty cool to Lynchburg, not too many communities have it, so it's very unique to the community and our historic districts.
All right,
I
so
second the motion.
second the motion, any other discussion on it? Okay, call to vote, all those in favor of denying the application of half rounds?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, so that's that item. And let's see. Existing Amherst slate on the front right and left elevations is deteriorating, needs to be replaced with this item here, correct?
Right.
This material.
Yes.
Have you put any of this on yet?
Yes, on the back.
On the back.
I had previously been here for a COA for that.
I don't suppose we have any pictures of that.
No, unfortunately. I can get them to
If we
you,
go
but,
to Google Maps again, there's the existing roof. I'll try to turn it your way as soon as I get it positioned here.
We
But-
do approve synthetic materials as long as it's in the same, shadow line, size, depth, that sort of thing. I'm
If
good.
you two down there could take a look at, there's different patterns on that roof and possibly different colors if I recall properly, but maybe not. Maybe it's just the different patterns.
How long ago was it that you put this on the back of the house?
7, 8 years probably at least.
Hold up pretty well?
Yeah, it's been great.
And so so you want to replace the whole roof, basically?
I would,
And it's
I will
like,
say
I
that
assume it's leaking?
she is, yes, yes. She is correct that there are different profiles in the Slate. They offer different profiles. There's one that's a beaver tail and I guess they call it mitered, which is basically like a bottom half of an octagon or a
Yeah,
hexagon,
right.
which I think would match nicely
Emulate
with
that pretty well.
with what's going on up there, which basically is, you know, square slate and then a profile, like three rows of the square,
Back
3
to
rows of the
square.
profiled,
Right.
3 rows of the squared is what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually the artificial replacement on the back there.
Right there.
Yeah. And I got this is like version 1.0 of this stuff. I know for a fact the beaver-tailed profile was actually thinner than that, and that part of things has actually buckled a little bit. All of the stuff that's square and that is this thickness has not buckled at all. And one of the other nice things about it is that there's a 150-year warranty on it. So, and it's recyclable, so I can I'm in the process of getting them to admit that the beaver tail thing was faulty and, you know, can I please have a replacement for that part of it?
So, you know, this is obviously very unique to your house, that roof style. So are you saying that you can actually duplicate the style of the Slate?
Absolutely.
That's what it said, yeah.
Pretty close.
Well,
Not-
and
not
this
exactly.
this stuff is also scoreable and snappable and like, you know, I could shape, you know,
You could run it this to saw.
yeah. Yep. But it's hail rated to like, I don't know, baseball size. It's like 150 mile an hour hurricane rated. It's
Though I will say your existing roof is recyclable, has had a 150-year warranty,
Right.
it's just now running out. And I guess I would really like to go out and, I apologize, I did not examine this one aspect of the application. Since there are several things that we're asking to come back for, if we might consider tabling this as well. I just think this is a really important thing. I don't want to say I'm not going to vote for it, but it's very important. It's changing an intrinsic detail, and I would like to see a couple other Slate.
You're not doing this, I mean, is there a rush on the roof? I mean, like within the next 30 days?
No, not in the next 30 days, but it's having it fixed, including the gutters, is going to be one of the first things that has to happen before I do anything to the inside or the outside, because, yeah, water is a constant
What
problem.
And you're concerned,
What is it that you want to see beside that piece?
Do you want to see that I can,
I want
that
to see
this
it on
can,
the
that
roof.
can happen?
I'd like to see what's on, I'd like to see that material's on the back. I'd like to look at that compared to
Oh,
this.
closer, better
I mean,
pictures
it's
of
one of
it.
the few times where we actually have the ability to see it in place.
Right.
But also, I'd like to look at the roof itself, because I know that on many applications, you know, we've asked people to repair a roof. You know, obviously, if there was a tree limb through it or hurricane damage, we'd be looking at it differently. But, you know, Slate has, in Cornwall, England, they're, 300 years old Slate, so
yes, Slate
there's a lot of
does
benefits, to a slate roof. So I just would like to give this more consideration if.
I would only ask that you, that I can arrange to take you up into the attic to view the underside of it, which is really the issue.
Have you done an estimate repairing, taking it, repairing it versus replacing it?
Slate?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I guess I'm assuming that the Slate is okay. Well, you obviously you wouldn't have to replace all the Slate, you'd have to replace maybe some of it that's damaged.
It's the nature really of the Amherst versus Buchanan, Buckingham, excuse me, Buckingham Slate that is the biggest issue. That's just the fragile easily, when you get on to work on an Amherst slate roof, we have in some of our other districts too, that it demolishes so quickly. It breaks off the edges so easily, so that's the biggest. If it was the other variety, then there would be no question about the
Well, and
fix it.
on several parts of the roof that get more sun than certain places, you can put your finger through it. It's chalky and like, I mean, I don't know what deterioration happened to it, but it is.
What's the lifespan of Amherst?
30 to 40, I think realistically is what before it started to fail. And of course, the Buckingham is what, 100 plus, 100, 200, who knows?
So Amherst is that list?
Yeah, it's that
This-
flaky.
This is original to the
It's
house?
that,
You
I
think?
believe so.
yeah.
And the house was built when, 1909?
1880 something.
Wrong house.
Yeah.
1883.
You want to make a motion, Laura?
I'd like to move that we table this so that the committee could look at this a little more closely and examine the existing conditions normally we don't ask to go in, but if it's okay with you, that would be helpful to us, because I guess we can see the underside through. So I think that would be useful in making a recommendation on this application.
So there was a motion to have a table with a personal review of the property. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? So we'll table that one and make a little field trip. I'm sorry?
You didn't say proposed.
I did say opposed.
Did you say give me a chance?
Oh.
I said
aye.
aye
Sorry.
for opposed,
Okay.
just for the record.
You were opposed to saving?
Yes. Okay, I think that was the last item
Yes.
for you all.
Thank you, folks.
Excellent, thank you all. We will
Thanks for the clear
We'll talk.
application.
be in touch. All right, let's
Have another one?
get back. Yes, we have,
Three more.
this one is 2024 Rivermont Avenue. Thank you, folks, for hanging in there.
No, we learned a lot.
Yeah, good evening. I know.
I'm Stephen and Bobby
This is
Chester.
Bobby, yep.
We're the owners at 2024 Rivermont.
Welcome. Thank you.
We were here, I was here
2
about a
years
year
ago.
a year and a half.
No, it was 2 years ago, it was September. We bought the house 2 years ago. So we own the house.
She wasn't here.
I was here. I was here, we were in the room. Actually, I was here on the second meeting only.
All that matters, you're both here now.
So yes, 28 years later, we're both still here. So we're just revisiting the pool that we had submitted for 2 years ago. So we're ready to get started, which is very exciting. So the project is really, so that was the original from 2 years ago, the plans that you're looking at there. And I submitted new plans about 7 weeks ago. And then I also, actually I have new plans that are only slightly changed. But it's not so much different from the original. So there's the, so the yellow is the fence.
Oh, thank you.
And the blue is the pool. So our intent is, certainly we know from Rivermont Avenue that we have the whole front facade visible. So you can see that we've started the project at the portico on the right side, at the back side of the portico. And then on the left-hand side, it's all the way back to the end of where the brick ends, is where we'd like the fence line to be. And then the rest is just the pool within.
So no more garage.
Well, we didn't, no, we're not going to do the garage. We'd like an outer,
So, to give you some background, since we've been here at the committee and done the work for the house, I don't know if you guys had ever been in the home, but that home has about 65 windows. And of those 65 windows, other than working at the hospital, myself and one other person have rebuilt 50 of the original windows back to the original state with camel hair sash cord, original hardware, and that's been every day for a year and a half.
So we could actually, we were just listening to the other window discussions from the other folks, and we wanted to raise our hand and go, well, we've done it. So,
We
I mean,
have.
it's not, it's
Yeah.
not easy. Yeah, and it's beautiful though, and you're right, when, I forget, Lauren, if it was you that said that they last forever, because they are magnificent once you
But
take
the
them down.
issue for
So-
me is that we're looking for a small outbuilding, because I'm still doing the woodworking. And what we did is we used the attic space for the initial when it was cold,
Yeah.
and then I have to carry the equipment down from the attic into the garage.
Carriage house.
Oh, the-
Yeah, we're
sorry,
using
carriage
the
house.
carriage house right now.
But what I make it easier for me to use the woodworking gear is just to have the outbuilding back behind this magnolia. So I can just move the gear from the garage to the outhouse, or the outbuilding. And it's not an outhouse. But the idea is, it would make my life a little easier than having to go up and down to get gear to do the woodworking for the windows. And
So
I-
that's what you see, the little blue box, is I was thinking just a 12 by 12, simple, in the
Way
back
in the
corner.
back
So
corner.
instead of the extra garage, that's what we were thinking of.
Okay.
Of doing instead.
Oh, and the batting cage is really just a.
It's just a
fenced
net.
Netting.
enclosure?
Yeah.
That's just,
Right.
yeah,
Oh,
it's not
okay.
even an enclosure, it's just the net. I just
Okay.
put it there for measurement's sake, as to
Okay.
where it would fit. For our softball girl.
Okay.
Applications committee.
Yeah, I was totally confused. I thought you were submitting the old one, so now this is totally new. So, we have a fence going around the house, and I assume another fence going around the pool?
No, so we're
Oh, so
using.
that would
We're using
erode the
that
whole
fence
thing.
as the fence pool, and so I know legally for the pool, it needs to be 4 feet high. And what I've been talking with the gentleman about is 4.5 feet, because I think 4 is still a little too inviting.
Sure.
So we'd like 4.5 feet going all the way around, and that's again the yellow picture that I handed you.
Now, this picture is a little different than that picture.
So the fence actually runs to the right-hand side of the driveway coming off the portico, so that's why the fence is different. If you go around the portico, or the back side of the portico, down the fence line or the property line, to the back of the yard property line, across, and then back behind the carriage house.
Can you show us with the?
Sure.
With the,
Use a little
with the,
red.
oh, I got it.
That's this right here. This is.
Yeah, you should just look at that. But
The yellow
official, right?
outline is what it would be.
This is official
yeah,
right here.
the difference is what you're seeing right here, this drawing of the fence. We were originally going to only fence in the right back side, just to to protect the pool. And then when Steve and I were talking about it, it just would look awkward. We would have everything here and nothing here. And so that's why I brought in the new paper copy, is instead of just closing it right here, the fence instead, like Steve said, will just go the whole
So you're gonna have a gate going
back
into the
property.
yard?
So we'll have a gate, an automatic gate right here on the driveway. And then we'll have at the portico, at the back of the portico, not the front, in the backyard, we'll have a
That
gate
would
right
also be an
there.
automatic gate there as well.
You know what? We're negotiating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Could go either way.
I actually have a photo of the fence, or sorry, the gate, that would be on the Irvington Street side, and it's actually from Europe. It's exquisitely detailed. It's a cast iron or iron fence. I have a picture of it on my phone that I can show you, but I don't have a picture of it like electronically, so if you want to see it, I can show it to you.
It's at Bailey Spencer. We found it.
Oh, yeah.
So you actually found a fence at Bailey Spencer that will do this whole property?
We just found the gate.
Oh, the gate.
Just the gate, yeah. So really, we're just looking to have the backyard, again, fully enclosed, and visually from the front of the street, you'd still see the full house, you'd still see the portico, and then the fence would be, you can see I even have it a few feet offset from the portico, so it's even further back into the yard, as to not impact.
Is this solid wrought iron or is this hollow?
It is aluminum, steel. I think we went with the steel. But it looks like, it's one of those two styles. With either the middle one, we haven't picked yet, the middle one has the little barbs, and then this one has the
It's
straight
solid
on
all the
both.
way.
And I think we were going with the barbs.
And the height,
4.5.
does that meet the guidelines? I think it does.
For that type of fence, it does, yeah.
We've done those.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank
so
you.
is this two different applications, or is this one, the pool
One.
and everything together?
It's just, the fence was separate.
The fence was separate because we were going to ask, to save some money, if we could do the very back of the fence, same height, but in the black coated chain link. Because it's mostly, at least on the right-hand side behind the portico, it's mostly bamboo, is what that would be going through. And then the left-hand side would be going against Elizabeth's driveway. So that's why we separated the fence, is just because we were seeing if we
Is it
could.
visible at all, the back?
It would only be, so if I'm looking at the front of the house, and I go all the way to the back of the very back of the fence, it would not be visible for the first half, because it's within bamboo, is what separates us between all 4 of our yards. But then it would start to be visible against Elizabeth's driveway.
Right here.
What are the things for fences? What, you want to put chain link back there?
It's going to be a
The
black.
black, we were thinking the black, just so it visually didn't look so different.
And that would come not all the way out to the road here, but just up to this coping?
Correct, it would come, we were thinking it would come, so all the way through the bamboo.
Yep.
That already goes to here, and then right to about here is where all the shrubbery ends. So we could either do just this piece that's within the bamboo, and then this piece that goes along Elizabeth's driveway, we could go back to the aluminum.
Okay.
And when you're referring to Elizabeth, it's the house behind you?
Correct,
yeah.
correct. Yep, the old alleyway that was vacated, there's an alleyway that runs right here. That's her driveway.
So the 4.5 feet of fence on either side of that gate that was illustrated in the photo there, that gate looks a lot higher, even on the ends, than 4.5 feet. Is that,
Correct.
is it?
That's just the entryway to the driveway.
Correct.
Yep, and that would be
So it'll
just,
be a 4.5 foot fence that will come to post, and then there'll be a step up to a larger
column.
gate.
It
we
would come
were
to a
thinking
column.
brick columns
Okay.
to
Oh, okay.
differentiate,
Okay.
right, the heights, just because we agree with you, it's a significant difference. And I think if there's just posts, that it might look a little awkward with
Right.
the difference. So we were looking at some
Yeah, that makes
Columns.
more sense.
brick columns.
Okay.
And I don't know if our guidelines talk about it. Some historic districts actually differentiate between fence height and gate height. And like gates can be taller or shorter, but fences are the consistent height. In ours, I don't think we differentiate, correct?
What is the height of the gate on the side? I know. it
The
goes up.
lowest corner pole is 6 foot 4 inches, and then it's about 1.5 feet higher at the center where the gate opens.
So is it possible for you to perhaps get the fence up that high and then gradually take the fence down, like maybe 6 feet from the gate or something like that?
And taper it, perhaps, perhaps. I
I
don't,
think she's right, it's gonna look awkward
Oh,
to
no,
have
I
this
didn't say, I
4
didn't say
foot-
I think it looked awkward. If she's got the brick, I'm just saying that other jurisdictions allow a lot of flexibility with the gate, whereas ours just say 4.5 foot or 5 foot, but other jurisdictions will say, you know, gates can be all sizes. So I think when they say they're gonna do the brick piers, that would be enough differentiation.
You know
I'm
what,
sorry.
I missed that part.
I'm sorry,
I was,
I might not
I was
have-
delving into this,
Yep.
about the chain link.
no,
It'll be
yeah.
4.5 foot fence that comes up to
Oh, okay.
Brick.
That's different, okay, all right.
brick posts or piers, and then the gate would stand between the two.
Okay. Unfortunately, chain link are not considered appropriate and will not be approved. This is direct from the guidelines, except for repairs to existing non-conforming fences resulting from the designation of the property district as historic. So I don't know how to get around that. I mean, I'm sure you can do something less expensive back there. And as a matter of fact, have you looked at the guidelines at all?
We have,
I mean,
yeah.
there, you know, we
And
have,
our
we
house
have
is in a couple of
an acceptable woven wire fence design. Have you looked at that?
I did not.
It's even less expensive.
Yeah.
It's very common through the historic district. It was like what everyone did to save money on the back line.
Okay.
But it's probably way cheaper than even chain link, if your dogs or, and/or
Yeah, we do. Oh, I see.
deer, whatever you have in your yard.
Both.
I'd be happy with that.
If you're happy, I'm happy.
Okay.
And that's something a capable woodworker can easily put together in his workshop.
Okay. No, that's a wonderful alternative. So I'd be happy with that.
So we could get you a copy of that, and,
Okay.
And then,
Yeah, thank you.
if you're acceptable to that, I think that would probably work.
That works great.
And it would be a little prettier, actually. Okay, so, we're doing this whole thing, so we discussed the fence, and we're discussing the pool, I guess, too, right?
Yes.
Pool's not changed. The pool plan is the same as it was a year and a half ago.
Oh, it is? It looks different. Why does it look
Oh,
different?
it's
Instead of a square,
a,
This,
yeah, figure 8.
this one right here.
Oh. Where's the other drawing we saw with the garage next to it? Was this submitted after the garage?
Yeah, so originally, before we bought the house 2 years ago, we just wanted to make sure that we could have a pool, because we didn't want to actually purchase the house unless we knew we could have the pool. So that's why we came here the 2 years ago. So that was the original drawing, and then now that we've noodled on it, it's changed to what you see now.
It was original, then that, and now this, so this design.
Okay, so the original drawing that was approved was with the garage, with that little garage?
It was.
Correct.
And then this one was approved also, after that?
No, this is part of,
This is part of this, so.
Correct.
So this new application eliminates the garage.
correct.
correct,
And changes the pool configuration, correct?
yes. Same location, little.
Different shape.
Different shape.
That's
Okay.
the original one.
I
from
got you.
2 years
So the
ago.
patio looks like it's a little different or something.
Yeah, the patio, I opted for a little more clean
Okay.
on the new
From
pool.
the, when you're standing in the street looking back in that direction, I'm trying to think, it's a pretty big tree. Is that this one right here? It's either
It's a spruce.
cedar or spruce.
It's a
Okay.
Yep.
Norwegian, yes.
Yep.
So the pool is right behind that.
The pool is right behind that. We've also planted a pear tree in front of that.
Okay.
That will block it. And then, of course, I'll have all the shrubbery.
Well, that was my next question. Are you gonna have screening, shrubbery?
Correct.
Yeah.
Screening?
Yeah. And it's nice, too, just because the house sits probably like 3 feet up off of the street anyway. So it's nice that, whether you're on Irvington or Huron or Rivermont, it's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I move that is it cast iron or aluminum fence?
Steel.
Steel?
Yep.
Solid.
I move the steel fence be approved as submitted, 4 feet,
4.5.
4.5.
6 inches tall.
Correct.
On the sides, front of the house,
Okay.
with an acceptable woven wire fence design as indicated in the guidelines on page 96 for the rear section of the house. The new swimming pool design meets the guidelines and is approved with, provided that there is screening around the pool with shrubbery. And the gates, excuse me,
That is correct, how you have it. Yep.
How I have.
the gates are also approved, the historic iron gates for the 2 entries would also be approved under this motion. Motion. Anything else?
I think so. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Any further discussion?
This is really minor, because I know you're going to do it, but we like to put it in writing that I assume the brick for your piers will match the brick on the house.
Yes.
Okay, so if we could add that, just because sometimes, you don't build this for 2 years, and someone else comes back and wants to do something different, so this way it's really clear.
Because you have
That's
a
all.
blonde, sort of a blonde brick
Yep.
on there.
We do, actually, it's fascinating. It's, the brick on the front, the 2 sides in the front is that blonde, And on the back, what they did is they used red brick and they painted it. And that paint has lasted 100 years. It's incredible.
So I guess you would have the option of doing either one, so which one, I mean,
Well, we would
I
use
think we'd use the lighter.
the front
Yeah.
viewed brick. It's just more elegant, and then we're going to keep the theme the same.
so if we can add that to my motion, that the brick piers will, the brick of the brick piers will match the existing house. brick.
Perfect.
Verification, the woven wire can go from this corner to,
To the,
About
it'll go to that,
midway of the carriage house is where her driveway starts. Yep.
Well, I think they could use that, they could actually use the woven wire anywhere in the back, because
Yeah,
it
the
meets the
whole
guidelines.
Oh, you're okay
It's-
for the whole back.
It's
Okay.
their option
Yeah.
to make it shorter, but it can be used anywhere on the back.
Okay, thank you.
Or the side, for that matter, it's an improved fence.
Really could be, yeah.
You can,
Yeah.
it's just a little less, a little less formal.
If you decide to
Yeah.
plant it out, you could use the woven wire, but if it's visible, I'm sure you
Was
like
it,
the one
was
you
there
picked.
something else on this about the shed?
The 12 by 12
And then the
shed.
12 by 12 shed
Oh, so that's.
in the
a-
back corner.
Oh, so we haven't finished that yet, right?
Right.
We haven't even heard anything about that. So is this a permanent or temporary?
We were envisioning like a slab.
I was
and
going to
then-
pour a cement slab and put that building there, or put the equipment storing area there till I'm done. So it's taken me a year and a half to do 50 windows. I've got 1,000 projects that I need to do. So whether that equipment gets moved, I don't have room in my carriage house with the materials and things that I own to keep the equipment in there all year round. So I've got to move the equipment that I'm using into that outbuilding so I can use the other equipment that I have. So I'm not going up and down the house. So
Is
in
it
answer to your
visible?
question, I don't know how long I would have it there, probably at least 5 years.
Okay, but is it visible?
No.
Not from the front of the house, you can't see it. You couldn't see it from the side of the house because it'd be beside the carriage house.
Yeah, it would actually be beside, so to the right of us, the McElroys have a garage.
No, but it was on that other thing.
And so it would be, if you were walking on Huron, it would actually be beside their garage. So it'd be difficult to see, and our carriage house would block it from Irvington, so
Basically, you have
It
to be
would
in
be
my
difficult to
backyard
see,
to see
yeah.
it.
It's actually, it was on the drawing they submitted, but
Right.
it is not part of the
it
application.
would be right there. Yep.
And what was the size, 10 by 10, you said?
12 by 12.
12 by
Yeah,
12?
we were thinking, yeah.
Made out of, is this something you're gonna buy prefab?
More than likely.
This is, I think it's right
Way
there.
back there.
So I walked this a couple times and I just couldn't get a vantage point back. And where you would have a vantage point from Huron, I think that the neighbors will block it. But if you want to pass that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So where is it again?
Way, right, basically underneath that tree right there,
Where's their house?
this one. So you can't see it from this way, from Irvington, because there's their carriage houses right here. You'd have to be on Huron and maybe have a shot at the back corner of the roof that direction.
Any of your neighbors, would they see it, that they would object to it?
It'd be pretty hard to see. Nobody, the only people that could potentially see it are the McElroys to the right of us. And I guess I'm thinking with the angle of the fence and the cherry tree is still there. So I can't hide it 100%, but it wouldn't be starkly
Obvious.
obvious.
I move that the shed be approved since it is not visible from Rivermont Avenue
Oh, yeah.
or
Irvington.
Irvington.
Irving
Or Huron.
Or even
or
Huron.
Herring.
Yeah.
There was 3 streets. Did I cover that?
I think so. Second to the motion?
Second.
Any other discussion on those items? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Great.
And if you want, anyone needs help with the windows, I will say, I'll leave you with one that we, in all sincerity, we.
Please, can we
No, I meant advice, not labor. Our windows are, just like some of the folks, on the turret. They're the curved glass. I know you guys have probably come across that. We found we've replaced several of them. We found a place in Mechanicsville.
Has a kiln that.
Has a
can do
kiln.
one glass window a day.
They'll make the curved glass if somebody is looking to do
I mean,
that.
it's leaded, it matches the
So.
original. I mean, everything on the house is back to its original.
It's
Beautiful.
amazing watching it. You know, I see them boarded up and then they show up again.
And then it
It's
shows
like,
up magnificent, yes, so. yep.
Well, they showing up is me. So, we're trying to get it done. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Yeah,
all,
thank you.
appreciate it.
Can you send us a picture of the gate, please?
Oh, I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. You want me to just send it to Tom Martin?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, moving down the line, we have, oh, crikey. Sorry, hold on one second, my phone, my iPad is not wanting to, here we go. It's Cavil Street, 129 Cavil Street, there it is. Victoria, thank you. Thank you.
I know, you made it happen for me, I appreciate it. It's good enough to wait.
Just for the record, if you could have your name and address, please.
Victoria Bartholomew, my home address is 609 Washington Street.
Thank you so much. And this is regarding 129 Cavil Street. Go right ahead.
So what we want to have done here, as you can see on the front part of the porch roof, somebody at some point decided to asphalt shingle it. I'm sorry, it's not the best photo in the world, but it's old asphalt shingle. You can see the original roof itself, or at least a very old roof, is the standing seam metal, which we do plan on keeping. We want to do a standing seam metal roof on the porch roof right there. And then there is a, maybe 2 foot by 1 foot also patch of asphalt shingles that was put on that we also want to replace with that roof, a standing seam metal roof as well. And then the other change is that front door right there. Somebody put that fiberglass one in at some point. It's not very attractive. And we found one that I thought would be suitable for the style that is a historic door. Obviously, the glass and everything is missing. To replace that, it's same width. We're going to trim the door down, maybe 2 inches, but it'll fit exactly in that space that's still right there.
Trim it down height-wise or width-wise?
Height. Width, it stays the same. Believe me, it was very tricky to find one that was wide enough.
Applications Committee?
I move that it be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I would add is the metal roof will be painted, or is it pre-painted?
Painted. So we're going to paint it to match the above roof. It's going to come in some color, but all the roofs will match when they are completed.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the color of the door?
Color of the door is one of the colors that was approved through the color COA.
Okay,
So it'll be painted too. Yep.
gotcha. All right.
What color's the roof? Which I
It's a
guess is
slate
already-
gray.
All
Cool.
right. Any other discussion? None. Call for vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay, great.
Man, couldn't be any easier, right?
Thank you.
Thanks for being
Thanks so much. All right, let's see. We have run through our list there. We have tabled items. If I can get that to pull up on my iPad before it dies. All right, let's see. First item appears to be 215 Cavil Street. Right from yes.
Larry Foliaggi. My address is 195 Apple Way in Madison Heights.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here and for your patience as well, sir. Please let us know about 215 Cavil Street there.
I'm part owner of 215 Cavil Street and have been working with Lauren on this project. And I think she has some sketches to present regarding the fence and retaining wall.
Right. At the last meeting, it was approved to do just a very straightforward wood fence. that met the guidelines, but being that the other part is Thomas Filiaggi, and he's a fine metal worker, as is Larry, they would like to do a black metal fence instead of a treated wood fence. So the drawing that you have shows the design they'd like to do. It says all materials to be shop painted flat black, so it'll just kind of go, black really blends into the landscape. Some people try to paint them dark green to blend in, but black really does. It's in contrast to the existing building. It starts back in the block some, so it's not right on the street. But if someone was to look at the fence in the building, there are some black metal accents on the building. But they thought that this fence, it's obviously much nicer than what many people will put up. It's not a prefabricated fence. And so it starts to speak to who owns the property now. Fine metalsmiths, which is pretty neat. It will start to be part of the history of this building. So it's still going along that property line. And at another, am I correct, at another time we'll do the low fence? Not part of this application?
Correct.
Okay,
Along Cavil and.
right.
C Street.
Right, so this application is limited just to the side yard, and I think we had a taller fence proposed, the 72-inch previously, and we're sticking with that. And it's all, your drawing is really almost like a shop drawing, because it is a shop drawing. It's got every piece of material that's going to be in the fence, its diameter, and detail level.
Applications Committee?
Do you have a more detailed drawing?
I know.
When was this building constructed? Do you know?
GIS, it says 1870.
1870?
Correct.
You're in luck then. Cast iron fences are not appropriate for buildings built after 1920. Just show me where this is going again. You have the little pointer?
If I can remember. It's right, it starts there, and goes down, where does it, I can't see that far, I forgot my glasses.
To where the back property starts, like to the right,
Oh, here?
right there.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's just this
Right.
length.
I mean, it's our intent to continue it all the way to Hancock eventually, but because that's not part of what we're.
And the height again was what? I should have said it on here, 72 inches?
72.
72 inches.
6 foot.
So,
At
How
last
many
month's
sections
meeting,
do
we
you-
were
what
talking
is-
about 8 foot, but then we realized that 6 foot was the max allowed, so we were keeping it at 6 foot.
and how wide is each section? I assume it does that sort of thing?
Correct.
Each section?
Correct.
And you know the width of that?
It's on the drawing. I told
Is it on
you.
here? 81 inches?
Yes.
81 3/4. yeah.
Center to center. So, this is one of these situations now, will this be stepped down, each
There's a-
section?
There's a
Because-
gradual slope, and I've been discussing that with my son, and I'm of the opinion that it should not step, but he has the exact opposite opinion. So we will.
And I kind of forgot what the slope there is. I thought there was a
It's
little
a
slope.
slight slope. As a matter of fact, where
It's sloping more this way.
it's sloping down to Hancock.
Yeah.
But the slope doesn't, it's a very slight slope until you get near Hancock, then it increases a little bit more.
So the part that this fence is going from the property line up is more level.
Doesn't slope very much at all.
Yeah, just a minor.
Okay.
Are you still doing the dog ear fence?
No, this would be in replacement of
So you're
it.
not doing the dog ear
Correct.
fence
Correct.
that was approved last time?
So is this all we're looking at, is just a fence today?
And the brick, you wanted, at the last meeting, the retaining wall to help with the water issue.
Oh, the side right there.
The
Right.
commission wanted to have more detail on that, and so we brought Mr. Filiaggi brought the exact brick that they'll be using. It's a low wall, you know, it's really just above grade, but then it's like creating a little bit of a well, similar to Commissioner Morris's house. On the back side of your house, you have a little, well, all around your house, you have a little well that keeps the grade away from the house, allows the building to breathe. Right now, the grade is going into the side of the building on this upper part, and it's above the floor line, so.
That's only the length of the building then, correct?
Correct, just the length of the building.
Now, is this a new site plan, or are you still doing the old one?
No, you guys have the more current one. This is the really old one. You approved parking in this area, which is why the fence is in that area.
Okay.
So
Now,
they've
is
just,
Is this brick matching to the old,
Yes.
that matches the building? the
Yes.
Existing building? And what will it be capped with?
probably more brick, right?
More brick.
Okay.
One day, it might get stone, but we'll come back for that. For
And will the
now, it's
top- Will the
brick.
top be a different pattern, or?
Be a row lock on the top.
Is that it?
That's all.
I move that it be approved as submitted for the wall and the fence.
Wall and the fence both approved as submitted. Motion heard. Second.
Second.
In discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sounds great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
We appreciate lovely drawings like that.
And I need a fence around my property, I'll call it.
Very nice.
All right, let's see.
Sure, you can't afford it, though.
Let's see if I can, did you, no, they're not lined up like that. Table item,
You actually skipped.
I think I
Yeah,
have
you've got, a couple got skipped.
three more, I think, if I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah, Richard Morris.
Well, the first one was Morris Construction. He actually just sent me an email. Let me see what this says.
Is that, no, what is this, Deer Hollow, no,
Like the columns.
Deer Hollow Road,
Lauren,
Washington
do you
Street,
want to do the
36.
appeal?
I don't think it's fair that you always have to.
It sounds like
I don't
they're
think so.
okay
I
with
feel like you always get stuck with it.
you denying
You wanna do
the deck because she
We made
wants
good
to see
argument
what's
last
gonna
week.
happen with her columns first, and I don't know if, as I mentioned, she's appealing that decision, so.
Oh, the column, right,
Yeah,
for
so it sounds
Rivermont
like
Avenue.
or just deny their application from 2 months ago because they're gonna just wait and resubmit whenever something is decided about the columns.
Okay,
So they're still going to the,
To the city.
city.
so Lauren's just volunteered herself to do that.
Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, that's going in October. The appeal was put in your Dropbox.
Mm-hmm.
So one of you need to be able to come to this.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
need to just check that date, so
Is that date for city
It's
council
October
meeting set?
10th,
October
maybe
10th?
7:30.
Okay.
I think that's okay.
And then the next one, Chris.
Let me know if we.
Well, they need to act on
Oh, I'm
one.
sorry, I
fine.
forgot. You guys have to make a motion first.
So it's a motion to
Deny.
deny,
What did we deny?
to get her, the columns.
The table, no,
And the-
no.
no.
The deck. The back.
The deck, oh, the deck,
It's been-
because that was the tabled item.
Because it's been 2 months.
You have
Okay.
to act on it within 60 days.
Okay.
And they haven't showed up with.
So I move that the application be denied as submitted.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
I think your motion should state that it's being denied because the petitioner was not here and you have to act on it within 60 days per the zoning.
Sounds like a good motion to me. Can we put that in there?
Yes, we can put that in there.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There we go. Let's see. So I think there's also, I don't, these don't appear to be in any order to me, so I'm guessing unless you want to tell me which one's
Yeah, I'm going off your agenda,
three.
so the next one was 317 Cavil.
Cavil
He
Street.
previously told us, Dylan, and specifically in an email to Dylan, he said, you can just deny that because I have too many other projects to bring it back right now.
This
is
is,
the Rivermont
this is
house
not
again?
opening.
This is the one at
317 Cavil.
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 He had, remember he had several items, and one of them that you tabled was a shed.
Oh,
Eight,
yeah.
8 by 10 shed in the
Because it was
backyard.
kind of prefab.
And he put up his fence wrong also. I don't know if anything's being done about that, but
We're trying to work on that from a zoning perspective.
Okay. All right, so
it's not all
we're,
that bad, I guess.
we're,
So that would be denied as well.
we're
for the same
denying, okay, for the same reason. So,
Yeah,
so we
I
have
think
to,
it's pretty bad.
we have to deny this one as well for the same reason, that it's, we have to act on it.
Second.
Can we, I move that this be denied. Can we do the same?
Right, we'll do the same wording from the last.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, so we will, next, before this dies on me,
It's gonna be,
is it the driveway?
Can we have a strong, can we,
316 Washington for the gate, Chris.
316 Washington Street, yes, for a gate. This is,
Was tabled
oh,
from
Scott
last
Glass
time.
coming up in,
I'm beginning to
Covering
remember
for
those
the
long
boards,
meetings from my
yes.
previous life in this commission.
I was wondering why you were hanging out over here.
I
so
thought he
long.
wanted to join the commission again.
all right, so this is
I
built.
love you
fence
guys,
at
I
the
do, but not right now.
Left line of the property to match existing, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
It's to build a new fence at the left property line to match existing?
Yes, where am I here? Let's see. Number 3 is the gate, yeah. So whichever order you want to do it in, it's fine. Robin, did you get the stuff that I sent you?
I did. I put
Okay,
it in
cool,
the
okay, good, yeah. Yeah, if the gate, first of all, that actually is the gate that's at the front of their property, which they would love to emulate at the rear of the property. Same animal, same style, 9 feet wide from post to post. It's a combination, I guess, wrought and cast iron, I presume it must be. But that same look, 4.5 feet tall, 9 feet from center line to center line at the back, and the rest of it's going to be just fence. If you've been at the back of that property, they just want to be able to shut it off. It's all part of their enclosing it for their dogs,
So they're gonna have this made?
they will have this made.
Well, now you know who can make it.
You know?
Yeah, the previous guy was just.
Oh, is that, so that was, okay, oh, good, yeah, no, yeah, seriously.
Nice.
They love the look, that's what they want to do, and I said, okay, you know that's going to be custom, right? She said, yes, that's going to be custom.
I move that, is this the only thing we're covering, is this?
So it's 9 feet.
9 feet wide, center line to center line for the two
Yeah,
posts,
then there's another one, but the only one on this one right now.
and 4.5 feet tall.
Second.
Oh, I didn't make a
Oh,
motion?
I thought-
You're really in a hurry to get out of here, aren't you?
Have a good dinner.
I move that it be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? None. All those in favor? None opposed? Pass. So we move on to the fence aspect of it.
I took a shot of the 2 fences that are on there. That one, my glasses on. That is the one that exists, that one there is the one that actually exists at the right side, which is that, double loop ornamental, the upper grade of woven wire that's in place, which is on the right side, which they want to maintain on the right side all the way down. The slide on the left is the one of just the standard woven wire that's also on the property that's on the left side, but they want to make an upgrade to that one too. This is the same one, exactly the same one on the right side instead of just the woven wire. And again, they're looking for transparency along the property lines so the dogs won't get out. So they want it all to basically disappear.
Yeah.
So is that it?
That's a shot I got from the company that actually manufactured. That's a modern version or a current version, which is almost exactly like the one that's in place. And it's about, I think it's about 40 inches tall or thereabouts.
I move that it be,
It's called a double loop ornamental.
I move that the double looped ornamental fence be approved as submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? Ready to go on the fencing as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Glass.
It's
Appreciate your time.
advantageous to wait to the end.
And have an easy application.
Looks,
Second the motion
Thank
before
you.
there is one.
from what I'm showing, we have one more for 215 Cavil Street retaining wall. Is that correct?
That's that, the one.
Oh, that's the one I did out of, all right, so,
So did you guys see this conference? And
yes.
What? No. What conference?
It's a one-day workshop in Petersburg,
Mhm.
October 6th at the Union Train Station. It's in your Dropbox.
Yeah.
Oh, do you get credits for AIA? Who's getting credits for that? Learning credits. Okay.
Right.
Do we have to tell you if we're going or not?
Only if you want us to pay for it, which I doubt is going to happen.
What? Is it free?
I
No,
believe there is a registration.
there is a registration fee.
Is it free?
Any other business that needs discussion at the moment?
Not formally.
No? Then we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for being here.
This might be a